Unless you'd like to be permanent secretary.
Should we make a motion?
We'll hold.
That's okay. Me and Carl can't hear anything either.
Got it. Thank you.
Right.
Good thing Mike's here. Is that
If it's
one,
red, just press the button.
is that one also blue?
It's blue.
Okay. All right. I think we're set. We've passed the minutes. Attorney's report.
So I attended CRA attorneys meeting, so I'll go over a few of the highlights from that in executive session and update you on some ongoing litigation. Other than that, obviously had a busy month. Any questions we can handle in the executive session? Take them.
Okay. Manager's report.
You all can see my manager's report that I've attached, and as we discussed last month, I'm planning on doing my manager's report more forward looking, like what I plan to be working on for the next month, rather than going back over what I've done the previous month, because I'm hoping the weekly updates are sufficient. If that changes at any point, let me know. But so for the month of May, we will be working on several issues, mostly I would say related to power supply. As I note in my report, that's going to take up the majority of my time and my staff's time. But then also on the financial side, we are looking at the budget. The budget so far is on target, but there are several things that we know we'll need to be bringing to the board eventually, maybe some considerations into July. And let's see. The financial training, as you guys know, is coming up. That's going to be on June 7th. So I'll be working with Emily and Eric with CFC to make July, sorry, thank you, July 7th. Says it right on here.
I'm going to pay more close attention to dates.
But so we'll be making some plans for that training, trying to determine what aspects should be included, shouldn't be included, so that it's a useful day for all of you guys and for the management team, because I'd like to have the management team in there as well, if that's agreeable to the board. And then operationally, we've got some legal strategies that we need to be working on and some operational strategies for fiber going forward. We'll be working on that in May. And then employee focus wise, you can see we're getting geared up for several events with employees this month. We started a housing committee. We also will be holding our second all-employee meeting. Lineman appreciation event, as you guys know, is coming up in May. And then also we just started the strategic planning work group with the employee group. That started this week, and we will hold several meetings in May as we work through that process. Community focus, you can see that in May, we just got the new donations policy up on the website, and the form is ready. Thank you to Rob and his team for that. So this is our first month to have that rolling, and I'll be taking those in and figuring out how we're going to route those internally to get them back around to you guys. And then I've got a meeting set up with Winter Park and Altera to discuss their sustainability plan. Just had a Granby Rotary Club meeting yesterday, and I've got 3 scholarship presentations to do in the month of May as well. So there'll be pretty active community involvement, not to mention the annual meeting. So that's what I plan to be working on in May. And then if there's not any questions on that, I'll move on to the strategic planning executive report.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Operational, I read somewhere on your report about the inverters at the solar
Yes.
Whiskey Hill.
Yes. So we are still, Adam, do you want to give a report on where we are with that? I let them know that, we'd had some more problems with the inverters, but that you want to give the most recent update on that.
We're waiting for some inverters to come in to get them changed out, Carl. It's kind of for some reason we keep burning up inverters up there.
We had that same issue at Fraser, right?
We did, yeah.
So what are they, lousy inverters or what?
You could say that. I'm not gonna
Well,
argue with that, but it's.
We're buying them
Yep.
now because we never had a,
Supposed to be
with
good inverters, but we have burned up inverters on the Fraser solar field and now in Walden also. So they are warranted. They're getting warranted, but yeah, we burned up a set. We're gonna get them changed out. So that's kind of where we're at. We're waiting on the new inverters to get them changed out.
did CenturyLink repair the fiber for Walden?
I'm not sure if CenturyLink repaired the fiber or, Joe?
Yeah, that caused a multi-day outage up there. Yes, there were multiple cuts actually, and they didn't.
Yeah. Good reason to get ours done.
How long is the warranty on those inverters, I guess?
I don't know how long that warranty is, Justin. They're still under warranty, I can tell you that.
Is that a common problem in solar fields all over,
I
or
believe it is.
Yeah, I've seen that in other solar fields. This is the
what, do
first
they
time.
all come from China or something?
I don't know. I'm not sure. if that's
Probably.
the issue or not, but yeah, I've seen those problems before. Not at every solar installation that I've, had on a system, but certainly.
Okay. Well, it just lessens the return on that investment.
Well, I mean, the fact that they're under warranty is good,
Yeah, but we're out of production for however long that it takes to get them in here, and
Yes.
we've got money borrowed against it, and so, it's,
So Carl, I think prior, and maybe we can work on this, is that we always had the company who provided the warranty gave us a couple inverters to keep up here so we could swap them out relatively quickly. Sounds like we might have gone through those.
We went through those.
So
Yeah.
we might ask them to give us a few
Fraser
more.
and-
well,
I don't know.
that's
I
the
mean,
remedy,
yeah.
yeah.
It's the difference between owning.
I mean, the last time I went out, it was a whole month or longer before they got back into production again.
Right,
That's-
it costs us money.
Yes, it costs us money. And that was the whole point of the project to start with.
To make us money, wasn't
To
it?
make us money or save us money, one of the two. So,
Carl, we had a good bit of those inverters on the shelf. We went through those, burning out these inverters. And so unfortunately, we are waiting on those inverters. We could look at possibly getting more, or maybe switching brands and see if there's a better inverter out there. That is what's going on.
Thank you.
Adam, does the whole system go down or just the section that inverter is serving?
It's just that inverter, whatever it's serving.
So it's just a partial.
It can be partial, it can.
How many inverters are on that, like on the Walden deal?
I'm not sure how many.
Half a dozen or?
If you look on the Mountain Parks Electric website and look at the solar log, you can see the
I was
inverters.
gonna say 6.
And I think it's 6, but I may be wrong.
They're pretty big inverters.
Any other questions before I go on to the strategic planning update? Okay. So I attached the final executive summary from CFC, from the strategic planning session that we all participated in last month. I felt like the team there, Lindy and Eric, did a good job of summarizing what went on during the strategic planning session. I think that they captured the majority of what the board was wanting us to focus on. And so what the next steps for right now, just so you guys know, I've taken not the executive summary, but the full report. And I've started working with an employee group. There's about 15 employees who are working on this, from management to supervisory to frontline staff, got a mix of all three. And we're working through the various not just the goals, but the objectives that you guys outlined under each goal. And then we've got a lead person on each one of those now who's assigned, and we'll be working on what the tactics are, developing the tactics for accomplishing the objectives that you guys outlined. So that just started this week, and we'll be having meetings probably bi-weekly until we get it all fleshed out, and then we'll bring it to the full board again in June, July, maybe July, depending on how long it takes us to work through that and feel like we've got a good plan together for you guys to review and approve. But I was very happy with the number of employees who volunteered to be on that team, on that work group. And the first meeting we had, I felt they were very engaged and contributed a lot to the discussion. And so I'm optimistic that it will go well and that we'll give you guys a good plan to look at in July. So unless you guys have any concerns about what you saw in the summary, please let me know if you do, but I felt like it accurately captured what went on. And if you see anything that's lacking, please let me know so that the work group can take that into consideration as we work through the plan.
I've got a comment.
Yes.
I'm not going to be at the next one, of course, but the arrangement of the room is terrible. When you put everybody in a big, long line, it's not conducive for
Dialogue.
Yes, and that's what we're there for, is dialogue. So I would suggest that the next time you do this, you do something different, because that was.
Carl, you're right. We've done it twice there, and we've done it in the same format. And
Yes,
we
and
didn't change it. And I mean, even this room, I hate the fact we have people with backs to other people. And so, how you lay things out matters. And I think that's something we can get better at.
Amen.
And I'm really sorry it made it hard for you. It made it hard for all of us, but we should take into consideration.
Shrink the U a little bit or something.
Yeah. Get us in a circle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. No, I agree.
Comment.
I think that's a good suggestion, and I agree. I wasn't crazy about the way it was set up either. We can certainly work on that next time we go around and try to find a facility that works better, or even just a room setup that works better.
I like the facility.
I like the facility too, but it was a pretty large room, and I think just having the open U shape instead of pulling the tables together and then having us all squared around it, I think would have been better. But we'll get that fixed. If there aren't any other questions about the manager's report as presented, or the executive summary of the strategic plan, that's all I've got.
So Virginia, staff will have equal opportunity to comment just like we did during the strategic planning session.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that we've got the staff involved to the point that they can say, I don't like this objective, we're not going to do that one. This is what the board has told us to accomplish. That's how I see this. The objectives in here are what the board has told us to accomplish. Where the staff has voice is how we'll accomplish those objectives. And yes, I would say they have equal chance. If I bring up an idea and they all think it won't work, or that there's a better way to do it, they absolutely have the chance to bring that up and propose ways to accomplish these objectives. But they won't be changing the base that you see here as far as what the overarching goals are, those 7 goals. They can't change those, and they can't change the objectives that you guys got in mind. Just the tactics for accomplishing them.
Which is another way of saying we can get to the same
Yes.
place.
Yeah, just let us all figure out how to get there. You guys have given us the direction. Let us figure out how to get there. So that's what they're working on. And I welcome any feedback from the managers, but I felt like it was a good first meeting, and employees engaged and provided comment. And, we did some brainstorming on each one of these. And so I thought it was productive. A few of them felt a little uncomfortable with it. Is that fair to say? I mean, I think a couple of the employees in there were like, this is weird. I've never participated in anything like this before, but I think they'll get used to it.
We just need to get comfortable. But it's
It's
new for a lot of us.
It's new for a lot of them.
There was already some, there was some of that uneasiness, but there was already some good employee buy-in. Want to be involved in, planning this stuff out, planning the future, helping plan the future of Mountain Park. So I was pretty optimistic, honestly, with a lot of people wanting to be involved.
Yeah, we've got a lot of volunteers, which that's great,
Not voluntold, they're actually volunteers.
They think the objectives are reasonable. attainable.
I don't think I
At this
heard
stage.
anything that.
I didn't hear anybody complaining about what the objectives were or anything like that afterwards. I think, for the most part, everybody was kind of nodding their head and this makes sense. This is what we're working on. Of course, there was a lot of comments on some of the retention and some of that stuff, but, I think, they were we filled every box, kind of assigning people to go to the different things, so.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. So at the first stages of this, we took all those objectives that are listed. So there's, I don't know how many bullet points. There's a lot of bullet points, right? Every bullet point's an objective. And yeah, some 20 some odd. And with that group, I said, I want you guys to read through these and then we're going to go around and I want each of you to tell me the 2 that you're most interested in helping with. And so we went around the room and they all told me the 2 that they're most, and every single one of those bullet points had a person's name by it. So it showed the diversity of the group of people that we had in there, that there was interest across the board in all these topics, which I think was really good. It shows that the topics that you guys chose are, pertinent to the employee group. There's things in there that everybody can relate to. And there was nothing in there that people were like, why are we even talking about that? I don't care about that. So every single one of them. Now, I didn't open up that bottom one that's really the board objectives. That one I didn't open up for employees to sign up to. I think that's more something that you guys need to work on and I need to work on with you. But other than that, a lot of buy-in on the various objectives. So I think that's a good sign.
I once had someone tell me that, as management of boards, you think this is really important and this is less important. And then when you talk to employees, it's like this. And so, and you're up there and you're thinking you got it all right. And so it's really cool to hear that all those things had employee buy-in.
Yeah.
We weren't missing it.
Didn't seem to be. And the one that had the most employee buy-in that the most people said was interesting to them was the retention piece. So, which I think aligns with what this board told me when I came in, that this is a, major, initiative for you guys, for me to work on. And clearly it rings true for the employee group too, which I think shows alignment throughout the organization. It's good.
Art, any thoughts?
Oh, it's good. Going as planned. That's, try to see staff getting input from them. I always appreciated it when I was staff. You go, damn what I think. I think that's good.
Okay. All right, well, discussion action items. Are we ready? Levi?
Rest, still moving forward slowly on that. The latest development is the main contact I've been working for at RUS is leaving for CFC. Just another slight delay, but I'll keep moving forward on that and we'll get that done. I did real quick. I thought since we've had it on here, we can probably put that under unfinished business going forward.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. You mean you don't think it'll be finished by next board meeting?
Well, hopefully it will be, and it'll only be on unfinished business one.
All right. The new tariff considerations, Virginia.
This is, I don't have any attachments here. It's really just to let you guys know what we're working on. So Levi brought to my attention last month or a few weeks ago that that we have a need to develop what's considered an interconnection tariff. It is a state requirement. We're working on that. So we're going to be developing an interconnection tariff that will go before the board probably in July. If I can get it done in June, I'll get it then, but I'm not anticipating that we'll have it done that early. So an interconnection tariff that is required by the state. And then the second tariff that we as staff are working on is a standby rate. So standby would be if you have an entity that, let's say they're self-generating, they're off the grid, or, they don't need power all the time, they just need it sometimes. Then we would want to have a rate that's applicable to situations like that. We don't have a current customer that needs that, but just knowing what how some things are changing throughout the industry and even in our service territory, I'd like for us to have that rate developed before we need it, so that we're not developing it on, for a specific, company or individual. So we'll be working on a standby rate. There are a few examples across the state that we'll be using to develop ours. And again, I'm planning to bring both of those, the tariff and that rate to you guys in July. Hopefully I'll have a draft in June so that we can then get a notification process going so that you can vote on it in July. But I wanted you all to be aware of it. And that's really all I've got on that.
Or does standby rate allow a seasonal person to, I mean, Grand Lake's a good example. There's probably, well, I mean, there's quite a few homes up there where people completely shut their home off. For
I think of it as a little different. There are a lot of seasonal rates across the state too. So a lot of co-ops have seasonal rates. That is certainly something we can consider. I think of a standby rate as almost being more on a commercial level rather than a residential level. But certainly we can take that into consideration as we're developing it and look at what some other co-ops are doing when it comes to, seasonal properties versus true standby that would be kind of off and on depending on the daily needs of an organization.
Better make sure you have the definitions
Yes,
right.
absolutely. Yes.
Are you familiar with what Holy Cross is doing?
Yes, I am.
What can you put in a nutshell what they're really changing? And what I'm reading is a lot of member pushback.
Yeah, so I was actually at a managers meeting with CREA last week, and Brian Hannigan, their CEO, gave about a 1 hour discussion on the new rate that they've proposed and how that's going. I would say in a nutshell, the rate is designed to capture the value and ensure that members pay for the value associated with grid interconnection, right? And regardless of.
What are you talking about, service availability? Or?
Yeah, kind of.
But in a different way.
In a different way. They're really capturing it in a unique way, but it's rather than everything's based on the kilowatt hour usage, it's based on, yes, that's a portion of it, but you also have a portion on it that's just the access to that grid, and it's separate from their base charge. It's kind of like a demand charge. They've done a good job of making it pretty creative. They have gotten pushback. I would say, from Brian's discussion, the pushback has been maybe a little smaller than is portrayed in some of the news that we've seen. Considering the number of meters they have and the number of comments they've actually gotten, it's a very small percentage, but it has been vocal. They are working through that, and they're going to continue to work through that. I think that their rate structure that they're proposing is good, and I think it's a way that a lot of utilities will be going. It's similar to just having a demand component built into all rate classes.
It's not based on what I'm reading or somewhat understanding. Whatever lines serve you is what you're charged for. You're not charged for the whole.
I don't know.
Co-op. Is that correct?
I don't know. He did not get into that level of detail.
Okay.
So I can certainly research it. It is one that, we're working on rate development and cost of service study coming up this year. And so we will be looking completely at what they've done. We're also looking at a few other co-ops who've implemented some, more unique rate designs that, Empire Electric is one that's got a pretty solid rate design in place. Holy Cross is, coming up with this one, but we'll be looking at all those different ones when we contemplate what we need to do here at Mountain Parks going forward.
Thank you.
Are they based on panel size?
No, not based on panel size. The idea, I can say the concept behind it that Brian, put forward is that it's energy agnostic, right? It doesn't matter where you're getting your energy, whether you're producing it yourself or whatever. We're energy agnostic. We don't care how you get your power. You're welcome to, be a part of our grid, but you have to pay for your portion.
You have to be part of the facilities that bring it to you.
Right, exactly. You need to adequately cover the cost of the facilities that bring that power to you, regardless of its source.
You'll probably pay for all of Calgary, no worry. Carl will be paying for all of Calgary.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kristen.
Hey, so my understanding was that the main point of contention was that instead of having a bundled kilowatt hour charge for residential customers, they divided that into an energy charge plus like a distribution charge. So think of how we pay tri-state, right? We pay an energy charge, and then we pay another charge that helps support their infrastructure to get that power to us. So the impact that that's had on, in particular, the solar industry there is that customers can get credit for the energy that they put back onto the grid, but now they're losing basically half of the value, right, of that technology because they're not getting paid for that grid support charge that supports the distribution infrastructure. So the main legal challenge has been that is the assertion by the solar industry there is that that is an illegal move. They have sued. They plan to fight this. In part because it kind of devastates the economics of new solar installations. And in recognizing this, Holy Cross did compensate existing net meter customers because they realized the reduced financial benefits that solar is going to have there. So I think that'll be interesting to watch and see how that resolves. Thanks.
It's just a different way of trying to capture the revenue we need to keep our system whole, and recognizing that between distributed generation or community choice aggregation or whatever, we still need the funds to invest in our system and our employees.
I'd be very careful how you frame that, Liz, because that's the thing that Holy Cross took and got them in legal trouble. So.
She said, be careful.
Be careful of my comment.
Thanks.
Not sure. That's all I have on the new tariff considerations.
These shouldn't be as
No, these are not, no, the tariff considerations we're talking about are not what we just discussed with Holy Cross. It is an interconnection tariff that is required by the state, and then also a potential standby rate. It's very different than anything that Holy Cross is currently implementing.
And to Carl's point, I think that rate development for us as a board, this is not something we're going to get done this year or next month. It's going to be a long process. We're going to have a cost of service study. We're going to look at different rates. We're going to go round and round, and hope we'll have perhaps different power supply costs and setup that we'll have to take into account. So all of those things are going to take time. Let's see, D4, I think, is next. Has everyone, that's the director's attendance at meetings policy. I had asked Levi to change it. We've seen it a couple months ago, March, I think. Have people read it, and do you have questions?
Seems like we approve this one frequently.
We do, and then there's a new president. Look out, Justin. And then you try to do the per diem sheets, and you realize, oh, geez, the policy, was that a special meeting or just a regular meeting that lasted 4 hours or less? So hopefully we won't change it again for a while. These are, hopefully, does it answer all your questions, Craig, as you fill out?
Well, I think this is a good improvement, yeah.
Okay.
But I look at our president's timesheet on occasion, and the president spends many, many hours. And I think either the president needs to spend less hours or possibly be reimbursed at a little higher rate. And so I don't want to really bring it up.
You know, I don't think that the hours I spend right now are indicative of the hours I will spend over a longer period of time.
Okay.
Well, and we increased the reimbursement here.
When Jeff was.
A year ago. Or?
Right. When Jeff was president,
Okay.
Carl noted that Jeff was spending quite a bit of time as well. No, I think, and one thing that we did not do last January, I think, was to go over this and review whether or not the per diem amounts were correct. And we usually base them on what Tri-State does, I think, and so.
That's what has been done in the
Yeah.
past. Now,
Right.
that didn't have to happen, but that's.
Right, and so in December, I think we will revisit this, make sure it's the right amount.
We've
And
looked
tick
at
that box.
other boards before across the state. I think we're pretty much in line. There's some that pay a lot higher, there's some that pay.
Everybody does it a little
Health
different.
benefits, there's,
Yeah,
that's.
we do think board retention would be improved if we had health benefits, though.
Possibly, there's a lot of boards that pay health insurance.
I'm joking. That's one of those questions on the 990 or whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Are we an insurable?
We're not sure. Okay.
Well,
That was why we didn't do it actually last time.
My other comment was kind of a lot of what we do is just a good neighbor thing, like our little 1 hour meetings with our park resort.
Right.
We don't charge for those.
Right.
And that, I think that's appropriate. That kind of comes under just the friendly neighbor
Right.
community support category rather than reimbursement. And all, you know, it all kind of gets lumped in at the board meeting.
Yeah.
Reimbursement, that
Some-
kind of covers your.
Some co-ops just
Yeah.
pay a flat so much a year
Yeah.
to cover that kind of stuff. And
Exactly.
you're required to participate in those, but you don't have the reimbursement.
Because otherwise, we're kind of nitpicking every half hour. So,
I
yeah.
can't handle that.
And then Liz asked me, I'm gonna look at her sheet, and
Yeah.
just sign it. I've been looking at it, but just as a, so I feel bad about myself. I don't have 96 hours.
No, I asked him because I was like, we're trying to tighten up controls here, and I should be signing my own per diem sheet. Someone else should be looking at it and saying, Liz isn't running up to per diem. So Justin will be signing mine from now on.
But I feel the same way you do, Craig. But she spends a lot of time.
You want a motion on this?
I'd love one, Carl.
Make a motion to approve policy D4 as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Member event recommendations. Yeah.
So, one of the things that we had, it seemed like when I first started here, there was an interest in knowing what all the events would be throughout the year, because I know there's a goal within the board to attend a certain number of events. I've been working with Rob and his team to look through what the proposed events were for 2023, some of the typical events that Mountain Parks has participated in the past, and what those dates are and everything going forward. So one thing that is important to me is ensuring that when we have member events and member outreach, that it is that it's purposeful and that it accomplishes our goals, right? And so we talked a lot about what the actual goals are of member engagement. And, is it just visibility in the community? Is it just, spreading our sponsorship dollars? What's the point of it? And the point of it is to have engaged members, members who understand what's going on, members who feel like they're part of a cooperative, that we care about their communities, and that they're actively participating with us and are educated. And so in order to do that and yet still balance staff time and, not burn people out, I like to prioritize events that we as a cooperative put on, events that are, specific to topics that are important to us and that we host, rather than sitting at every county fair and sitting at every, this days or that days and having a booth where people are there for something else, right? You're there for a concert. You're not there to learn about mountain parks. I like to have a mountain parks event so that people are coming specifically to learn and engage with us. So what you'll see presented here is a schedule that we think, that's me, Rob, Chris, and Raymond, who developed this together, that we think helps reach all communities. So it goes to all communities. It doesn't put as much of a strain on staff as going to all the weekend events and the evening events. And it hopefully will result in high levels of actual member engagement. So I wanted the board to look at this because it is kind of a transition from some of the types of events that we have participated with in the past. But I do think it's a good listing. So we'll be doing some EV or e-bike test and drive events. Those have gone over well. There are a lot of good, strong member engagement with those. I want to continue to do those. And those can be done during business hours with our employees, which makes it easier for us to staff them. And then the next thing you'll see on number 3 is a lot of coffee with the co-op events combined with an EV test drive. So what those are is going out into each community. So we'll have one in Winter Park / Fraser, Walden, Kremling, Granby, Grand Lake. So all the different districts and areas. And then we'll do those during the day, either, a breakfast time or a lunchtime at a location that members tend to frequent, that locals tend to frequent. We'll buy them a coffee, buy them a pastry, and talk to them about what's going on at the co-op, what they're interested in, not like some set presentation, just friendly conversation with them. I would like for board members to be there to engage with the members, especially in your districts. And then we'll also have an opportunity for them to, drive EVs and things like that. So those will be towards the end of the year, pairing those with the time that the National Drive and EV month is or week is. And so that's when we're planning on holding those September/October timeframe. We will also be doing some EV test drive plug and play events with key accounts. So you can see the list of those there that we're hoping to get scheduled. And those will probably be during working hours again, and meeting those key accounts at their locations. And probably during the summertime is best time frame for those, right?
Yeah, whenever we can schedule.
Whenever it works with them, yeah. Music in the parks, we're going to take that down to only one event in Winter Park where we would go and have a booth, and only one event in Granby where we would go and set up a booth, because those are evening events. And again, people are kind of there for a different purpose, but we do think it's worth going to a couple times. Biggest change you'll see is in the 5th quarter. Promise I'm not proposing we get rid of 5th quarter. I understand that it's a community tradition and it's very important. But what we would propose is spreading that event out over multiple different types of athletic events. So rather than having week after week after week, 6 times in a row for football, we're proposing 2 of those being after football events, 2 of those being after girls basketball, 2 of those being after lacrosse, so scheduling them out to where we're hitting multiple different types of athletes, both male and female, and then also during different times of the year. So I think that by doing that, you're going to interact with a wider variety of parents, a wider variety of students, rather than it all just being those associated with the football program, but still keeping a couple of those footballs. It also helps, just with staff burnout, to do 6 weeks back to back is really hard. Having these spread out throughout the year in different events, I think would be better, not only for reaching a wider variety and demographic of our membership, but also for staff participation and board participation as well.
Comment on that.
Yes, sir.
You're have some members that are not going to be happy with that, because it's been a program that's been in effect for, in my mind, long enough time that people expect it.
Yep.
And I agree with what you're saying, that you'll, get a different demographic and everything else, but you're going to have some pushback.
Yeah, and Rob and I have talked about that, and I think we anticipate a little bit of pushback on that from the membership. No, I mean, it's a good point, Carl, and I know some people will be disappointed because they have looked forward to that. And we don't have to do it this way, but I do think it's also important for us to remember that, we have a lot of other members that we should be. Oh, yeah, I know. But I mean, for all of us, right? Because we'll all get that feedback from membership. And so, we need to be prepared if that's the direction that this board wants to go with these programs. We need to be prepared on how we address those questions and concerns that we get from the community. Go ahead, Justin.
Did you try that in West Grand too? I think there was one time that you tried one after one of their football games or something, but I can't remember.
It's a different sort of situation over there. So I think they work with the Rotary Club.
Okay.
And all they ask for is sponsorship dollars, and they run the entire event themselves, and we do something similar.
Okay.
And that will continue.
As far as.
Yeah,
I mean,
of some sort of.
Sponsoring it, but not necessarily doing the
Right.
work of it.
I guess it'd be just getting the word out early, to Carl's point,
Yeah.
that we're we're going to approve over here, but we're going to shortchange you.
So we serve food after
So
every
it's a
football game.
good educational opportunity beforehand, so somebody doesn't come to the football game saying, where's my hamburger?
So, Rob, do you want to speak to Mike's question about?
So we serve food now after every football game.
Yeah, it's all the home football games in Granby, and it started, I think, in 1999.
Okay.
So but the short story is it's been going on since then. At that time, I believe football was kind of the big community event.
Yeah.
And things have changed over time. Now I believe there's more kids in Granby playing soccer than football.
Right, probably, yeah.
And so anyway, it's, but we've kept this going all that time. And
So the employees volunteer or?
employees, we recently expanded it to include other community organizations.
Oh, okay.
To co-sponsor events and reduce the number of employees needed on parks. Probably during, it's after the football game, 9:30, 10 o'clock, they start pouring in for the food. And it goes till, can go till 11.
Oh, wow.
But we used to need 6 to 8 employees to pull those off. Now we need probably 2 or 3, but
Because of
still,
that.
it's a commitment. It's,
Yeah.
And scheduling has changed. I mean.
Now they're
back.
not all on.
Yeah, Tom Cypher started it. His son and I played football together, but the football team had 80 kids. And the volleyball team had the home game on the same night.
Yeah.
So now it's like nothing aligns. There's 30 kids on the 40 kids, if that, no, probably 35 on the football team.
Yeah.
So it is, I think it's good to spread it out.
I think just spreading it out will be good. And I also think that we will, while the parents may change, I would expect we're going to have, we practically have the entire senior class of East Grand in the shop eating food. Whether they play football or not, they were at the game watching their pals.
Right,
And
right.
so it's going to be the same for all the people who showed up to watch the girls volleyball or the guys soccer or whatever, the whole school is going to come. And I think that's what we have to remember is that we're still
Yes.
providing that venue for everyone. This isn't, while we say it's a specific sport,
But it's
really about
That's right.
the student,
Yes.
the whole student body.
And I think if there's some way they can align, you guys can align it with when there's multiple games.
Yeah, that would
The
be
boys and
cool.
girls team plays in basketball the same night. That just brings in more, opposed to if just the girls basketball team plays that night.
Right.
Which is hard because in the athletic department, I think they've shifted. There's not as many weekend games statewide. It's
Yeah.
kind of so now your kids play every Tuesday and Wednesday night. It's because ADs, I think, don't want to come in on Saturdays.
I think it's also a ref issue. Refs have a hard time.
Shortage of
refs.
refs, yeah.
It's even harder on weekends.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with Gremling and Walden, where they don't have these programs that you have, like soccer or lacrosse? I don't think Gremling has soccer, does it? I mean, is it gonna continue on as it is now, or you're just gonna leave them out, or what?
I think they really, both those communities are set up, and all they really request from us are sponsorship dollars. I don't see us cutting them off.
Just Rotary does our,
That's fine.
we just give them money.
As long as you don't,
West Grand still.
huh?
Football is still a big event in those communities.
Amen. So is basketball, but they don't have soccer or lacrosse or
Well,
tiddlywinks or anything else. I've been a big proponent on this board to include our territory, not just focus on Granby. And so I hope you take that
Yes.
into consideration.
yes. And I would say this is not increasing the number of events in Granby. This is just spreading those same number of events over different sports. And it's not taking away what we've previously done for the other communities. It's leaving those intact.
Yeah.
And then I agree with you, Carl. I think it is really important that we do have outreach to all of our communities, which is exactly why we're proposing that Coffee with a Co-op, where we're actually out in those communities, having specific events in those, because I agree, you have to have a presence in all of your communities, not just your headquarters community, for sure.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Craig.
I have, the conversations evolved to what I was going to target. I'm going to put in a plug for Jackson County because I didn't see any real specific event, and I don't know, you might know what's appropriate that we can, we have the coffee, but I don't know if the county fair booth or,
Well-
is there something we can specifically look at?
Yeah.
Jackson County, because I don't think they're, to me, they're not necessarily represented on the
Right.
summary other than the coffee.
Well, so one of the things that I've not been here, right? So I'm going off of what I've understood.
Yeah.
Is that previously, the North Park Rodeo, Fair and Rodeo is in that area, and we would still be sponsoring that financially, just like we would be doing, the Middle Park Fair and Rodeo and some of those. Again, it goes back to, you know, and I'm not saying we can't do it, but I think setting up a booth at those events, you just don't get the engagement that you think. People
Well,
just come
maybe-
by and pick up their goodies and walk past. So I think it's better for us to do the events where we go there, and that's exactly where I'd like to do a coffee with the co-op, but we'll still sponsor that fair and rodeo Monday.
Our understanding, it's a summary of events and sponsorships. And then it sticks out to me that, you know, that we are active there, that it's not forgotten.
I hear you, Craig, and I think as a board, we need to be aware of that we're getting in all spots. But I don't want us to
Okay.
get down into deciding
Yeah.
which events staff should go to.
Okay. Well, if we feel comfortable,
It's not
we're
our job.
through sponsorships that we're covering all the ground we need to, then I'm fine. Yeah.
We'll certainly take that into consideration and make sure that when we plan events and when we plan sponsorships, that we make sure that we are considering all of our service territory, which I know has been certainly a practice in the past, and I've always promoted that at every co-op I've been at. You've got to remember all areas. But when you do look at a list like this, you will see more events and more sponsorships in the area with the most people, right? I mean, that's just going to happen.
Right.
But certainly we will always work to include all parts of our service territory.
Well, I'm comfortable with all that. And Rob mentioned the Kremling with, they're
Yeah.
happy with the sponsorship rather than, you know, the employee.
Now, I've always been grateful that, because I've gone to a lot of fifth quarters and they're really fun, but they're work and you have to stay up late. If you're not someone who likes to stay up late, you have to stay up late. And there's dishwashing afterwards and all sorts of things.
This was the chili pot. I tried to talk her out of it.
But anyway, so I've always been grateful to the Kremling Rotary and whoever in North Park does that work. And I know, Carl, you're gonna have some extra time. So I think you could help out with that North Park crew. No, I don't know if our employees up there help or how that community organizes it, but it's sure nice to know that the money goes up there and it
Chamber of
happens.
Commerce has kind of reactivated itself, and so they're the ones right now.
Okay, well, thanks to them.
And maybe, I mean, on the fifth quarter, I'm just throwing this out there, but maybe just also look at non-athletic events like the drama.
Yeah, I know they're doing
The play.
Greece this weekend or whatever, so.
Yeah, and I hadn't been to one for a while. I went to this fall one. I mean, the auditorium was completely full.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many, there's probably 35 kids on that program, but my kids don't do those things, but I know that it was well attended by the community. So.
Anything else on member event recommendations?
No, that's all I have. I just want to make sure that the board is, you know, in line with this and is okay with this direction. I will say that these recommendations are not just Virginia recommendations. This is very much developed in partnership with Rob and his entire team. And, you know, a lot of these came from them, and I think they're really supportive of this direction. This is where they think we would get the most benefit in our communities. And I support them in that, and it would be good.
Number 7, online events, is that targeted for people on Facebook and Twitter and that, or how is this handled?
So we recognize that kind of, I think it was the COVID era that really started this. We still wanted to engage with people. Couldn't do it in person, so we were reaching out online and trying to grow that audience. And it became very popular to have these online drawings of electric equipment that we created mostly. And so we had a pretty good response there, and something we've kept going.
Can you give me a clue of how many people are
I don't
involved?
have the exact number, but
Members.
it's hundreds. It's hundreds.
Well, we have 20,000 members. Hundreds doesn't impress me because it seems to me as we're trying to be inclusive of everything here, our territory. We're excluding a hell of a lot of members in my mind. If there's only hundreds involved in a online giveaway that everybody else is excluded from, so.
Well, we're trying to reach out, Carl, I would say, to people in multiple ways. And so this is just one way.
But we don't have a giveaway for that other than the annual meeting for the rest of the membership,
We have
correct?
giveaways that don't they sign up at the coffee events for these?
They do, we had giveaways at the coffee events, the solar dedication, we had a giveaway item up there. And so it's a common thing we do.
For all
at
of ours?
A number of events.
Okay. You're happy.
Carl, I hear you. I told someone, and Kristen will get a kick out of this, they were inquiring about a program that Mountain Parks had, and I said, just have them call the office. They said, they're young, they like to get their information on the website. They don't want to talk to anyone unless it's a real emergency. So we have to think about all those different types of it.
And I understand that. I think things are moving that way, but if we've got hundreds
Yeah.
as opposed to tens of thousands or whatever membership, we're excluding a lot of people with these giveaways.
Or they
And I
haven't
understand.
chosen to.
Well, I understand that, if I'm not on Facebook or Twitter, which I don't want to be, either one of them get involved to get on the online
Yeah,
I think it's,
drawing.
I think it's a fair argument, but I would say that's true of all member engagement, right? I mean, it would be fair for somebody to say, I don't go to fairs. Why? I'm excluded from everything that they do at a fair. Or I don't have a kid in athletics, so I'm excluded from all the athletic events. I think anytime you have a member engagement program, communication pieces, events, drawings, you're only going to get a certain audience at every one of those. I mean, I don't think we have any one of these events, any event that draws 1,000 people. So I think it's kind of the same thing. At any one of these, you're only going to get a certain audience. But I agree with you. It'd be great to get more participation, and we can certainly work towards, getting more people engaged in our online presence for sure. But I think it's hard to find any one event, any one, communications method or medium that is going to get all 20,000 people. It's going to be really tough.
And there may be only 1,000 people at the fair.
Right.
But everybody's can attend if they so choose to.
Sure.
I can't attend an online drawing unless I'm on Facebook or Twitter.
Unless you choose to join Facebook or
Okay,
Twitter.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Like
Choosing to go to the fair.
Yeah.
Kristen, you were going to say something.
No, I just think it's good. And, we have a lot of in-person events, having a few online opportunities too, I think is fine. And yeah, I think Virginia makes a very good point. So thank you.
All right. Anything more on the member events? Going once,
Looks good.
twice, 3 times. Okay, we're done. Now we're going to skip down. Well, now we're going to take, let's see, it's 8:58. Does anyone need a break? No? Okay. We're going to bills for payment, number 8. Does anyone have any question on the bills for payment? Come on, Carl. I know, but Carl is sharp today. He is sharp. He's making the most of it. He's asking a lot of questions and making good points, Carl. So nothing on the bills for payment. How about the credit cards?
Nobody spent $1 million yet?
Not that I've seen.
That's kind of
They have, it hasn't come to me for approval, so. No, I did.
$10 million.
Haven't seen anything crazy.
The tri-state going.
Yeah, true, that one.
Then we might have.
Okay. Board open forum and associated board reports. Mark, was there anything at Western United you want to report on?
Yeah, they had a meeting on the 27th. They've had almost a record year again. They almost surpassed $249 million worth of business a year. Not all membership. They're doing quite a bit of oil and gas business. They aren't members of the co-op, so that adds to our patronage. They're currently, they're number one in the nation, retiring 2016 patronage. They retired. They're the first to just get it back efficiently and quickly and as efficiently as possible, but just had a phenomenal year. The business is growing. Southern New Mexico continues to grow. They're running a really tight ship, running on 60 employees. Talking about adding a couple more. It seems like a really tight ship since I've just been involved for a year with them. And Greg, I think he's doing a great job. We decided to retain him, gave him a healthy raise. He's doing a good job. He's running a good tight ship down there. Backlog, transformers can continue to be number one backlog. He says that we don't know really what to do. We're just trying the best we can. Working more with this, they call it right sizing inventory. Trying not to carry over too much inventory, but still have enough, especially for the co-ops, the members. Not the oil and gas side of it or the non-membership. They're trying to make sure that if we need something, it's in stock, and that's ongoing. It's kind of new to me. It's a sales business. They seem to be doing pretty well. I think we're fairly happy with them, aren't we, Virginia? They seem to be serving parks pretty well.
Any questions for Mark? Any
Nice
comments?
to get our stuff.
All right, Craig, CREA.
Let's see, CREA's monthly board meeting was online, which was very efficient. April 28th, it lasted 2 hours instead of 2 days, which was wonderful. The legislative session was at that point kind of starting to firm up and slow down and almost end. So that discussion was fairly straightforward. I've been trying to keep everybody updated by forwarding the CREA's legislative summaries, and now it's a done deal. Business is over. So there wasn't a whole lot, but CREA was invited to participate in the Colorado Energy Office net metering workshops. So there'll be more to come on that, and that's going to commence after the legislative session is over. So that's CREA is going to participate in that. Next month, I'm going to travel to Fort Morgan for a 2-day board meeting, and I was going to skip 1 day
I told him he couldn't.
because I thought it was a tour of a chicken ranch. But I looked further, and it was a dairy, and I still wasn't going to go. And then I looked further, and they have a methane digester power generator. So all of a sudden it got really interested. So I'm going to go tour the dairy farm and hopefully have much to report next month on this power generator, which ought to be kind of fun to see. So that's the end of May.
Excellent.
And that concludes my report.
Are there questions for Craig? All right, Carl, Tri-State.
We had meetings, first, second, third. E&O committee, the RTO commitment, have to say yes by June 30th. WAPA has to do the same thing by October 10th, and they extended that to WAPA because WAPA is having some issues with some of its members not wanting to join an RTO. And then there's, even if we say yes, there's still a lot of unknowns left to overcome. The Colorado PUC's one, and what happens at WAPA and FERC, and and all the legislations and legislators in Colorado, so. External Affairs, mercury violation at Craig due to Trapper Mine coal. Their coal is not of the same quality that it has been because they're mining shallower coal to complete their obligation to the Craig plant. So they're not going deeper. So the coal is an issue, so there may be some fines there. The board meeting, the RDC update, which Liz can give that to you if you want. There's been minority reports from La Plata, Wheat Belt, and United. The rate increase is going to be roughly in the 7.7% neighborhood when they do when they analyze or compute the formula. May 23rd, there's going to be a special meeting at of Tri-State on the budget submission to FERC with it has to go with the filing. So they are doing the budget very early this year. So there's going to be a special meeting so everybody understands the budget on the 23rd of May, and they recommend that CEOs attend that
May 23rd.
that meeting if they so desire.
It's a board meeting or a member meeting?
It's a board meeting. And also at that meeting, they are going to propose a new buyout or buy down payment for partial requirements members. In other words, they're not going to try and make a one-time payment as has been proposed in the past. It's going to be based on basically a formula like the new rate design is. They will take whatever power that a buy down payment buy down member is not using, sell it on the open market, and that money will be credited back to those members. And then there will be a true up every year. So it's a brand new wrinkle in the partial requirements deal because they got turned down by FERC. But I would recommend that you attend and find out more about it. I think there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked, and were asked down there that weren't answered because nobody knows. They're just trying to roll this thing out as quick as they can. So I think it behooves you to find out about it.
Yeah, as a party to that, because we have, submitted a request to be participate in that buy down process early on. I have been in some of those meetings with Tri-State with the other co-ops that are a part of that buy down group. And so I am aware of that proposal.
Okay.
Have asked a lot of questions, but there's still a lot of questions to be asked.
Oh, yeah.
It's a totally different proposal than what we originally were looking at, but
It's not what we signed up for.
it's not at all what we.
No, it isn't.
Not at all.
But it may be
Right.
to Mountain Park's advantage in some fashion. And I'll give my 2 cents here. I think that honestly, that is the correct way for Mountain Parks to go right now because we can stick our toes in the water and find out what all implications are by doing a buy down instead of a complete get out. But that, I think that they're going to have to work, Tri-State is going to have to work hard on this, and what it comes out with, I don't know, but the membership will be certainly a big portion of it, and the questions that you ask. Dwayne is working hard on the inflation reduction funding, so he's hoping to get a lot of money out of that. I don't know who's going to get money out of it, but anyway, he's working on it. Working on the Adams County lawsuit with United. BLM just passed a rule about strict liability. If you own a power line and a fire starts, which is going to affect us also, you are responsible regardless if you start the fire or not. So, which is crazy as hell. But
You're responsible for what?
The fire.
for the fire,
So it's my understanding, I don't know about BLM, but on lots of federal lands under some recent permits, that's already been the case, that they at least purport to hold the utility to what's called strict liability, which means you don't have to have been negligent. So the utility could have done everything right. And in fact, I think,
If a hunter starts it, we're still liable?
if the hunter knocks down a power line and the power line starts it.
Okay.
The power line has to be involved, but there's, yes.
I was thinking.
But they don't have to prove that we were negligent or that we
Right, okay,
didn't
so
properly
it's
maintain it.
Right.
Right.
We could do everything right,
Good power line.
but since it's because,
An eagle catches on fire and crashes.
If lightning hits it.
It was our electricity and we burnt the eagle on purpose.
Kristen,
How does that apply to member extensions? So for example, if we have had some situations where, a member has maybe several poles that they maintain for a radio tower, or maybe they have a large property and we have our meter, at the edge of the property, but then they have their line and they fail to maintain it. Are they liable or are we liable?
I think we should probably have these discussions in executive session.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
this is lines that are owned by the co-op.
But still, Kristen asked it.
there's some creative plaintiffs attorneys out there, so.
So let's, if the board would entertain it, if we want to talk more about this, we can proceed by executive session.
Question, I'm trying to think, Carl, they feel they could sell this. Do they have a market for this excess power from partial and full buyouts?
Right now, the market is hot. They can sell about anything they have.
Currently.
Now, a few years from now, who knows?
And after a member goes partial, I would assume Tri-State would not create more generation or build more generation. And so then there might not be unused power, right?
That's very true.
So
Don't know that.
other members grow.
What happened before was that Nuclear and Escalante shut down, and that was about 300 megawatts of power. That's why they did the 300 megawatts initially. But that may not happen in the future. It will still revert to my understanding, and that's the questions that need to be asked, is if there's, Craig is going to shut down. So what happens if LRS goes, or Springerville, then there may be more to offer memberships for partial requirements. But right now, it would be just the ones that have applied. Hooter Valley, I think San Miguel,
Miguel.
and one in New Mexico and Mountain Park.
And one in High Plains or somewhere. One of the issues too, and I don't know if they talked about it, was the term of that. So you do this for 10 years, and then you go back to having all that power, that to being full requirements customer tri-state. I don't know if they touched on that at all.
They didn't touch on that, but my understanding is that once you're partial, you're partial. It's for,
Forever.
yes.
So
Now,
this arrangement would last.
I don't remember at all having any deadline of it's only good for 20 years or anything else, so.
So you're always guessing 50 years in advance what the market for that power is going to be.
Amen. You are next week. You're guessing next week.
Well, and how much power Tri-State will need or sell,
Right.
right? Like if it's a dry summer, like there might, I mean, Tri-State might not have any power to sell.
Right, that's for sure. But they're required to service all their members, so.
Right.
You have more?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to hear more,
What do you do?
I can shut up.
What do you do? Hit us.
Deferred revenue recognition this year will be 11 million. That'll put about 30 million, 23 to 30 million left.
This year meaning 20, they recognize
In 2023.
2022 or 2023?
23.
So 20,
And why is there a range of how much that'll leave left? Why don't they know?
They know, well, it's about 11 million, so it's up in the air until they complete the budget here next month. So it's still up in the air. They're going to shoot for a 1.1 DSR for the year. Would be 1.2 if there was no deferred revenue. Again, I mentioned the 7.7 rate increase. Comparisons of the budget, 22 and 23, if United and Northwest Rural leave will be about the same. And that again goes back to prices of power is high and resale power would give Tri-State about the same revenue, and it's easy to sell right now. So with that, I'll shut up, and if there's more questions.
I've got a question about that 7.7% increase. You said that was tied up in the formula. So
Well, you know more about that than I do, but according to my understanding, the formula that is submitted for the new formula will result in a 7.7% rate increase.
And that will be captured in the monthly rates, not in the true up. That's my question.
Well, you're
I mean,
on that, you're
well,
on
I
that
don't know.
committee, you answer
I haven't
the
seen the
question.
budget and I haven't seen the, I'm somewhat familiar in sort of the billing determinants and the time they're going to use and the methodology they're going to use to assign costs. But as a committee, we have not seen, we've seen a comparison without any increase. So we were able to say, okay, compared to the A40 rate, which we're on now, if we use the same amount of power, but the billing determinants and the times are different, what does that look like to us? Are we going to have a rate increase or a decrease caused by that rate design? We haven't seen, okay, energy's going to cost 4 cents or 3.5 cents or 2.8 cents, and demand's going to cost, well, now it's going to be transmission that's going to cost $10 and generation demand's going to cost $12.
And-
We haven't seen that amount yet as a committee, or
And-
I haven't.
I haven't either. So my understanding is that according to the formula, all that will be in consideration and it will affect your monthly bill.
Okay,
True ups are going to take probably 2 years down the line before you see the actual true up of whether there was an overcharge or an undercharge.
right.
But the 7.7 increase will be immediately when the
Okay,
FERC
well,
accepts
that's-
the rate.
Well, that was the question that I had, whether or not that what Tri-State was proposing to FERC included that increase.
Sounds like it.
It sounds like. And
I don't know that they are designating increase. But the formula, if you can analyze the formula or compute the formula, that's what the rate increase will be. Now, I don't, like I said, you're on that
well,
committee.
so there are two things, like traditionally, the way I had understood sort of the formula thing that Mark had talked about with us is you had your budget. You get to the end of the year, you look at all the revenue that came in, your fuel expense and all of that, and you trued up those budget items. And
That's
how you
why
get
the
it.
new budget has to be submitted with the,
This
Rate.
formula includes, it's not just driven by those budget categories necessarily, it's driven by a guaranteed margin of $20 million a year, a debt service ratio of 1.15, and an equity capitalization ratio of, I can't remember what it is. But so at the end of the year, that's what's going to drive your true up. It's not necessarily going to be because natural gas costs more or less than you thought. It's going to always be meeting those
Financial targets.
financial targets for a long time.
yeah, and that's why it's
And
gonna
so-
take 2 years down the road to
Right, and so
find out the truth.
one of the questions that I had, and I think you guys voted on this in your last meeting, was a financial filing to FERC, asking, because once Tri-State became FERC regulated, you need to get authorization to issue debt. So, and you have to update that every 2 years under the Federal Power Act. My understanding, just reading stuff. And so that was filed May 3rd, which was the afternoon of your board meeting with FERC. And we've talked a lot about when the rate is actually going to go into effect. And in the filing, it actually says that they're going to send it in June, which is consistent. But
January 1, 24.
it doesn't say that in the filing.
But that's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's when they want the new rate to be in effect.
It said, if accepted, the comeback filings would become effective after the period for which financial statements are submitted. The financial statements that they submitted with the filing are from 2022. And they also said that they anticipate filing the new member rate tariff with FERC in June 2023, or in any event no later than September 1st. To set member rates to meet at a minimum an annual debt service ratio for 2023 of 1.2 and of 2024 and forward of 1.15. So the fact that they are referencing the rates in 2023 gave me some pause that they were perhaps hoping to have this go into effect sooner. But if you have not heard any discussion about
They
that,
wanted it to go into effect sooner because the budget for 23 is touch and go, but they can't make that happen. So they are going to submit the new formula rate and have it effective January 1, 2024.
Okay.
If FERC accepts it. If FERC doesn't accept it, then who the hell knows from there?
right,
But it will be accepted, they expect, with with, what do they call it, penalties.
Subject to
refund.
Yeah, okay. Good, well, thank you. I know it's complicated. It's time consuming and complicated.
Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention, that United just sent a resolution to Tri-State that they're not going to have a member represent United on Tri-State's board anymore. So.
Any other questions for Carl? Kristen, are you good? Okay, open forum, unless I forgot some board. Is there any open forum? Kristen, go ahead.
Hey, since this might be my last meeting, depending on how things go this weekend and if someone wins outright, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you all how much I value and appreciate my time on the board and your helping me become a more well-rounded director, and it really has been a pleasure. So thank you very much. I'm really proud of the direction that Mountain Parks is going for the future. I know you have a lot of challenges to deal with, but I'm totally confident that you will succeed in surmounting all future challenges. And if ever I can be a resource for you, please do let me know. And I'm also really excited about some of the financial and grant opportunities. And I'll talk to you, Virginia. I do have some experience with that, so I'd be happy to volunteer time if that's ever useful in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your service and all your participation. Other open forum comments. I've got a couple. I'll try to be quick. The Utility Bill Relief Working Group, which I'm going to point at Kristen. She helped get me involved in this group. They have a meeting today. They were actually covering some of the grant stuff. However, as we were talking, I got about 15 emails about that invitation. It was canceled, it was on, it was so, I don't know what happened, but anyway. National Driver Training, after your action last month, is looking for an employee up here to get the driver's ed program going again. So thank you for that. Yeah, those are my two comments. On to old business. Any old business? New business. There are three things. When's the annual meeting, Mark Vogt?
Saturday, 8 o'clock.
All right. Who's going to be there?
I'll be there.
All right.
Wait, what time does it start?
8 o'clock breakfast.
Oh,
8 o'clock.
the meeting starts at 9.
Yeah.
So, okay.
If you want to eat, be there at 8.
The important stuff
Are you
gets
coming
done
there?
at 8, Levi. The financial training, July 7th. The CFC annual meeting is June 19th through the 21st. I sent an email yesterday as a tickler, if anyone feels like going to the CFC meeting. Any takers? Carl? No. How about,
That's for that. If you
yeah,
had any
if anyone
takers.
You're going to
wants,
send me if I say yes?
if you want to go to Seattle, you think,
I'd go to Seattle. What's wrong with Seattle?
will you do a board report?
Probably not. But I might bring you a few salmon.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good. Okay, so we don't have anybody who wants to, Craig?
Is,
Interested?
at either of those meetings, will there be any staff attending?
I don't plan to attend the CFC meeting, do you? If that's what I wanted, if anybody plans to attend, we have a voting, right, and so we needed to sign up that delegate, but I don't think that I don't think I should go right now. I've got enough to do here.
I didn't mean you, but anybody.
They all have enough to do too. It's all hands on deck right now.
Okay.
But I do say, I mean, Dick always used to go to the CFC meeting. He loved it.
It's a good
There's
one.
usually really good speakers, as is the CoBank one's a lot more accessible because you can drive down to the Broadmoor. Just the Broadmoor, yeah, you have to try to find a different hotel if you want to not spend as much money, but everything else is comped. And they have fascinating speakers. And so I would encourage some of the board members to try to attend the CoBank one if you have time. So
We don't have dates for that one yet?
no, we do. It's July 24th and 24th through 26th. And I got that invitation yesterday. General manager meetings.
I guess I just wanted to talk to you guys all about doing the one-on-one meetings with me. I would like to start doing those quarterly. I've had, one-on-ones with all you guys at this point. And we will start to schedule them with the new directors once they are on board. But for next quarter, I'm looking at probably August timeframe. And so today, while everybody's here, if you'll get with me, we can get them plugged into our calendars because it's a lot easier to do it that way than emailing back and forth. So during lunch or at any point, if you all will get with me, we can schedule our next one-on-ones. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I comment on that. I missed having a conversation with you, which I regret, but just for the rest of the board's knowledge, I think that's a breath of fresh air that Virginia is executing this, and I think it's important that she talk individually with all the board members, getting a feel for them instead of sitting here in the boardroom listening to a loudmouth like me.
I did meet with Ty, just so you know. Ty and I did have our first one-on-one, and it went really well. We're getting to know each other too, and look forward to his contribution to the board.
I applaud
And I'm
you.
sorry that ours didn't work out. I am.
Well, I applaud you for
Thank you.
doing that.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys all being willing to do it. I've enjoyed them all, and, I think it'll be good going forward.
Let's see. The third thing is with Kristen's, well, she is not running again. She did get her CCD.
Oh, yay, I finally got in.
We have it here for you. We're going to celebrate, but we'll have to do it, I don't know, Saturday maybe.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yes, I'll be there Saturday.
Okay. So congratulations on that. Okay, let's take a break. 20 minutes. Staff. Management reports is what it says on my agenda.
I like staff.
But we're working through this.
All right, you guys, you have my report in front of you. I have a few things to add. First, I'm gonna follow up with a little bit on the inverters for the solar. So when you all are seeing those inverters show fault online, that doesn't mean they're not producing still. So I just had a conversation with our sub-tech and said that's just an alarm that's going off on those, and the only way to get the alarms to go away is to replace the inverters. Yesterday, we had some maintenance up there, so we did stop production for a little bit in North Park. But other than that, we produced at full capacity.
Oh, well, that's good news.
I got to thinking about that after you said that. I'm like, man, we've been down for months if that's the case.
Well,
I
that's for sure, but my understanding as a layman reading that.
So it's just an alarm that it saw something it didn't like, so the alarm goes off, shows a fault. That doesn't mean we're not producing solar.
You can't replace the alarm or?
It's
My
not
God,
the
it's-
alarm, it is those inverters that are doing those alarms.
They're failing.
That is what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what Mitch explained is they're lasting 6 months or so, and then those alarms start going off. So he is working with the manufacturer to see as we send them in to get the warranty work done, can you fix that so that quits happening? Because it's an annoyance and it's a maintenance issue that we have to spend time doing. So
I'm sure.
so the good news is we are still producing electricity and they're working at full capacity. Other than the clouds aren't really helping us out today.
Good.
Okay. I just wanted to point out, we've been kind of fighting mud season and whatnot, but construction season is really, with this warmer temperature, it's really kicking off. Engineering is kind of full go now, just getting jobs out, contracts out, and it's really picking up the workload. We also, we do have Prime Morris back in the Kemling area, fixing some punch lists of things that are wrong. They are waiting kind of on a full-scale mobilization until a legal issue is taken care of on phase one. Just trying to work out the details on what exactly is going on in phase one before they fully mobilize. Dalton Greenwood has completed all of his tests for his apprenticeship, has all of his hours, and is ready to journey out. We would have journeyed him out this week actually, but a lot of the guys are at Hotline School and I'm missing half of my apprentice committee to get it done for him. So next week, when we get back, we will be journeying out Dalton and probably either coming up at the upcoming lineman appreciation lunch next week or at the next employee meeting. I'll present him with his certificate. So just to remind everybody, that's 4 years of hard work, dedication to become a journeyman lineman, and we're really glad to have Dalton on our team. Some really good news this last week. Trail Creek, I told you all a while back, we put in a scope change, time extension for that to the state. Due to the inflation with materials and whatnot, that project originally was estimated at about $2.1 million. We put in a scope change for about $3.8 million. That is approved through the state and FEMA now, so that we're good to go. We're doing a pre-construction meeting next week with the contractor, and it actually got bill state this week. So they'll hopefully be starting construction on that in the next couple of weeks, which is just really good news. That's one of the last remaining projects from the fire. So we're excited to get that taken care of and wrapped up. Highway 125.
Sorry, real quick. That was the Trail Creek, or which project was that?
Trail Creek. Yep. Okay. Highway 125. They're very close this week to being totally done with that. The helicopter broke yesterday. Otherwise, they would have possibly been done this week. They do need to get it done by the 15th of May, or they will be having to get those poles out this fall. So I'm crossing my fingers, hoping when the helicopter gets fixed, hopefully they get some good weather, possibly tomorrow, Saturday, and that project can be completely done.
What are you gonna do when the cable gets daylighted from all the water and stuff that's running down the Barker?
I'm a little concerned about it, Carl. I drove by there this last week. It does look like it's holding up pretty good where the water's hitting it. I think we're gonna have to see what it does to it. We might have to go back with some concrete where those drainages are hitting that conduit potentially this summer and reinforce those areas. But as you've seen driving down here, it seems like that water's coming out different spots each spring. It's making new channels down through the mountain there, and a lot of the culverts are plugged up through there, and it's going to be an ongoing maintenance issue, I think, trying to just keep our lines safe in the ground.
Did you require a certain depth for burying that cable to alleviate that problem or not?
So our normal standard depth is 4 feet. Under those culverts, we went 6 to 8 feet to try to get away from that. But with that force of water, we'll see how it holds up. There was a couple spots where we did concrete it in, just trying to give it some extra reinforcement. But that is a lot of force coming off of that mountain. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Let's see. And then I guess kind of the last update I have, it's not in my report. I was down at Mesa Hotline School last week, just observing the new field that we, the board had helped donate some money to, and the new building they got down there. That new training field is just, it's I would say state of the art. It's brand new, new construction. It's actually up to NEC standards with the way the framing and everything is on the poles. There's plenty of space for the guys to get away from each other. It's not a safety concern, guys working so close. And it's just a really good training ground and a good avenue for our crews to get more experience and teach other new and up and coming linemen. So I'm thankful to this board that all donated the money to that school, and definitely would like to continue to support that avenue of training our next generation of linemen.
Yeah, I second that. I went down as well, and I've been going down there for a number of years, and the new facility is great. It's a vast improvement over what they had before, and I'm thankful to all the co-ops. I wasn't here when this board made that decision, but I was at another one, and we tried to support it. And all the co-ops really banded together and got that thing built quickly and very well. So
that's really all the updates I have. Is there any questions?
We had some questions about fiber in North Park when we were up there. We were sort of on hold till we get that phase 1 question worked out, or are they gonna get boring and whatnot going up there?
So right now they basically got a 2-man crew mobilized, and they're just kind of fixing what I would call gigs, things that we have seen that's wrong.
Gigs,
that's what I'm gonna call it, a punch list.
Oh, okay.
Of what things are that we know are wrong with phase 2. And like I said, they have crews ready to come in and finish all the completion of the fiber, which I think can be done in 3 to 4 weeks. But they are kind of waiting on a piece of knowledge on the exact scope of work that they got to complete. And that's being held up just a little bit at the moment.
there were a couple.
By whom?
There's a legal issue in phase 1 that's holding that up.
which we'll cover.
Levi is the culprit?
We're going to cover that. Yeah. We're going to cover that in executive session with this legal report for sure. So you get to hear about it. But I will say that from the last month's board meeting, there was also an issue that was brought up by one of the members regarding connection from one school building to another school building. And Joe has been following up with the school on that. It's not yet resolved, but he is working on that. And hopefully will get that figured out soon as far as what was or wasn't promised by whom and when. It's been a fun one to track down, which I'm proud of the job for doing that.
Not to jump on, Joe's done all the work on this, but at some point, Joe and I will go up there and meet with him and we'll get a plan. I think possibly Sessions and Sons has talked about maybe donating the time to the trench in between the buildings and, you know, we'll donate some time and go up there and throw the conduit and the fiber in the ground, or we'll figure out some way to get that done.
That was one of the specific questions that a member brought up during that meeting that we are working on addressing. And then the other ones I felt like were about kind of what Mountain Park's ultimate goal is with the fiber. And I think even some questions about, you know, last mile service that we're not any closer to having an answer on those for them at this time.
I would, since we're talking about Wallen a little bit, I have followed up with those members. If you remember, they had talked about blinking lights up there. We've been fighting with some birds up there a little bit, and we put some extra bird protection up. Monty and Joe have done a great job patrolling the lines up there and trying to be proactive, knocking down nests and whatnot. And from what they've told me, they have not had any blinking lights since we switched the system around and we've made those corrections. So that's going better.
We did follow up with each one of those members individually, so.
Yes, we did.
And there was something on the website too,
Yeah, I
an update on the website that was nice
Yeah.
about the Walden thing.
Oh.
That would have been wrong.
I had someone ask me a question the other day. The WAPA line that used to go to the old sub in Walden, that goes to the Muddy Pass sub and then down here. Who owns that right away?
You know, I'd have to look into who actually owns the right of way. I think when we made the trade for the Kremlin facility, that was part of that swap. But I'd have to look at
Well,
the
and
actual.
that's why the
I'm not sure if
question
it's-
was asked and I couldn't answer it.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that, Carl.
Okay.
Exactly. We may have retained the right of way possibly, but I'll have to look into that.
What facility is this?
So it's the old transmission line we used to own between the Muddy Pass sub and the Walden sub.
Do you know when that was transferred roughly? In the last
It's
12 years?
Probably in the last 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah, okay. I probably have some.
Before 10.
Yeah, because
It's older than 10 years.
Because we didn't have that
Before
facility over
2010?
there.
I
It
tried
was longer than 10 years ago.
Longer
Longer
than
than 10 years.
2009, 2008,
Right, that sounds-
2010, I think
that
was
sounds-
maybe that.
And I wouldn't have. That's the one with the poles still up.
The poles are there, but the wires are gone. There's actually, you know, it's WAPA, you know, that's what their poles now. But some of them are leaning pretty good. And I noticed that the other day when I drove by there.
And one of the reasons they asked me the question is if it's a WAPA right of way, do they have to leave the poles in to hold that right of way? Or what are the conditions under a right of way if there is no power line?
Depends on the right of way, how it was granted, what the specific language of the document
Each one
was.
is different.
Yep.
Okay, well, and like I said, I couldn't answer the question, but the question was brought up because somebody's dreaming about possible power generation in North Park. We've had the possibility of burning the gas from the oil field for power generation. But Scott always said there's no way to get that power from Walden to Granby because of that WAPA line. But if we own the right of way, we would have the ability to
construct within it, is what you're saying.
yeah, construct a line on top of it, and then when Craig goes down, you know, what is going to happen to the North Park sub, since there won't be any power passing through there, I'd assume, I don't know that, but But, some things that somebody ought to be thinking.
Well, with the line, as far as who has ownership of that right of way, we can definitely look into that. But my assumption, based on what I've understood from that transaction, is that it's most likely WAPA's right of way. Because they
That's what I would
took
guess
possession
too,
of that in
but-
exchange for the right. But we can double check that. Obviously, if it's WAPA's, that's not ours to maintain, anything. As far as when Craig is shut down, the power plant, whether or not there'll be power still being delivered to our sub, there still will be, it will just be coming from different sources. It's Tri-State will have to do something to deliver power there.
Well, I would hope so,
Yes.
but,
There will still be power. I don't want anybody to think that when that shuts down, that there'll be no power coming.
and
More power at
if,
Sport Park. No, that's not acceptable.
Nope.
if we,
It's not gonna happen.
exit Tri-State, then we will have to have a delivery point
Absolutely.
there and down
Yes,
here.
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Regardless of who our power supplier is, we'll have to have delivery points that ensure that we get power to all of our members.
Yeah.
And, that 100% will have to be worked out in any power supply agreement that we enter into. Yes.
Well, I asked those questions to just put the thought in you guys' mind. I don't need to know the answers.
Okay.
Well, and going through this power supply, Carl, like it's bringing ideas up, they've all kind of asked about North Park and the potential for some sort of generation up in that area. I think whether it's flare gas or maybe big solar field up there or wind farm. I think that is something that people are looking at and I'm interested in too personally.
Well, and
how would we loop that into the rest of our system?
yes,
Craig and I were both a little concerned, honestly, on just the single source into the North Park sub. I kind of wish we still had maybe one of the old subs there just for a little bit more redundancy. So that is something that we're looking at when we're looking at that long-range work plan and that long-range load forecast, that we will be looking at stuff like that and
Fairly
making sure-
positive it will be identified as one of our, weakest areas.
yeah, and that right of way is certainly, would play some kind of role in that, so
Awesome.
What if it were ours, for sure? I'm afraid that it's not, but we
Yeah,
can
well-
find out.
And I think Arapahoe actually took ownership of the poles, the duck farm there. I remember.
I usually when they abandon the line, just like Mountain Parks does, the property owner takes the old poles.
Because they wanted them up for the Hawks.
Well, they're leaving every fifth or sixth pole for the Hawks or the Eagles.
I think they left all of them.
Well, they're all the whole damn way, but their plan was to leave every
Yeah,
fifth or sixth pole.
to Justin's point, yeah, I do remember something way back when that they were gonna leave some poles for the birds to nest on, but they left all. Yeah, so I'm not sure what's.
Hence all those birds.
All the bird activity.
It's
They
ironic.
raised ducks there.
It's ironic that Fish and Wildlife and the Colorado Department of Parks and Wildlife require mountain parks to put bird
Protection, yeah, bird guards, yeah.
bird guards on our poles, but yet the Fish and Wildlife can leave the damn poles up so the birds perch there.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, well,
what sense does that make?
That's something we noticed around here, Carl, building all these osprey nests. We've almost created a little bit of a problem because we were attracting all these birds in.
Taught them what to do.
And we've taught them to build nests on these platforms. So now they're thinking our poles are nests. And so that's something I've talked with Game and Fish around here about, and they do have a new thinking now. They don't want any new nests built. But it's kind of, we had to learn it the hard way.
Well, up there it was sage grouse. They wanted to, keep the birds off the poles because they sit up there and see the sage grouse. But then the Fish and Wildlife is the one that handles the endangered species junk. And so they're leaving the poles up so that
All right.
the eagles can get to the sage grouse.
Any more on operations and engineering report? Okay. Finance report. Early.
So in my financial performance, the main thing that I want to talk about there is that we are right on track with our budgeted expectations within 1%. So as of the end of March, we're looking really good. Granted, we haven't gotten into the very busy, spendy seasons yet, so anything could happen, but we're keeping a close eye there. Wanted you all to be aware that our cash position, I expect it to tighten fairly significantly as we move into the construction season. As well as I wanted to make you all aware, we did discover roughly $1.4 million in invoices related to the fiber construction. This was all for work done in 2022. We just discovered it 2 weeks ago, roughly.
3 weeks ago.
This was not on our books as of the end of 2022. I did notify our auditors. It is a balance sheet to balance sheet entry, meaning all of that work would have gone to our construction work in progress, which is an asset account. And then, of course, the payable would go into a liability account. So because it is a balance sheet, has balance sheet impact only and does not impact our net margins, they said that we do not have to restate our audit. Of course, that is up to you guys. If you would like to restate it, we can have the auditors do that, but they did not feel that it was necessary. We have taken measures internally and we've collaborated with that vendor to ensure that this does not happen in the future. I feel really good about the steps we've taken there. It really boiled down to they had one point of contact, and that's, not best practice, and no one in that one point of contact wasn't on the accounting team either, so that was another issue, but we have addressed it and remedied it. Any questions on that?
It was just one vendor though?
Yeah, it's the vendor who manages our fiber, all of our fiber vendors, so this really does impact more than one vendor that we pay, this lack of communication, but we've addressed the communication with one vendor who it really matters gets addressed.
This month's worth of invoices.
Yeah.
So several months worth of invoices from last year that weren't getting processed because it was going to one person who is no longer at this organization. And so they weren't going to anyone in the finance department. But we feel like we've got, like Emily said, the process is clear now. A lot of us are looked into it and so we feel confident.
So like who approves it? I mean, who reviews the invoices?
Well, the person who was approving the invoices and reviewing the invoices is no longer here.
Yeah.
It was somebody who was in the engineering department.
Okay.
Now we have a process that will require more levels of approval and review before they get processed. It also provides not only checks and balances, for making sure that they're accurate, but it also provides a fail-safe in case somebody's not seeing them so that we don't end up with a situation where we have months to go unpaid.
And we probably, with that information, can see where we are on the budget for that project.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, we'll get to that point where we're like, okay, here's the projects for this year and here's.
It's a significant difference than what we thought we were ending the year with as far as investment in fiber. It's significantly more. It's more than double.
We're even close on some of the fiber projects to know it's gonna be this much over early on.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to know on some of that. And I would just add to some of this, thank you, especially to Emily's team, helped get this taken care of. But there was the gap is between when Scott left and when I took over. And there was a point there where we were not paying our fiber contractors because they were not getting the proper permitting done. So we were withholding invoices for basically months. And then I took over, I knew we were withholding invoices, and the contractor finally took care of the permitting, and so I told them, okay, start sending us invoices again. Well, they started sending us invoices again, but they did not send us any of those old invoices. So we had that months, several months worth of invoices. And, this is, should have known there was more out there, honestly, with all you guys. But, we were just lacking several months of invoices, and we have a very good process now. It's not going to happen again.
So I hate to cut into Emily's report, but I did miss something under new business, which was an offboarding process that staff is working on. we talked about in our strategic planning session, sort of how to ensure continuity and records management and all of these things would sort of tie in. So staff's working on an offboarding process, not just for employees, but also for directors, because we have directors who will be bumping off the board, and we haven't had a clear process as far as when emails and access to the building and getting your iPad turned in and all of those things. So that is coming. There's a draft of it, making sure the 990s are done. I've been chasing Dick around for his 990 because, okay, I mean, so there's a lot of little things that we need to make sure we have checked off so that these things don't happen.
And we will be, to Liz's point, coming up with a similar process internally for staff that's leaving the organization, not just so that it's a easy process for HR and for finance and payroll and IT and all of those functions that need to be shut down and correctly, closed, but also for continuity issues where it's like, okay, this was the single point of contact for such and such. Who's taking that over? And that's really, it wasn't, Scott certainly didn't miss these invoices. It was just after he left, there was no one doing that, because of the transition. So we're hoping that the process that we create will help reduce the likelihood of things like this happening again.
Go ahead, Emily, sorry.
So I did something a little new this month in the financial report. There's a couple of ratios that we present to you guys in the financial reports every month. And I'm not sure if you guys are all up to speed or remember what these ratios actually indicate. And I threw a couple extra ones in there as well that, as they pertain to our financial covenants that we have to meet with our lender. So the first one you'll see on here is related to liquidity. This is one that we present to you guys every month, and I just want to go over it very quickly. This is a measure of our short-term solvency. So this is comparing your current liabilities with your current assets and your ability to pay, basically, to cover your current liabilities. A ratio of less than 1 may indicate that you don't have enough money or current assets to cover your current obligations. And a ratio between 1.5 and 2 is typically considered healthy. Our ratio is 2.3, so we look really good there with our current solvency. I will say, or short-term solvency, I will say that we may see, this shrinking a bit as we start spending more money in construction season. So just be aware of that. This is something that it's always good to keep a close eye on. The next ratio relates to debt management. This is our equity to total assets ratio. This one is basically indicating how much of our total plant that our members own free and clear. So this is kind of a cool one. It tells you how much of your total assets your membership owns versus how much you're financing. So this is also one of the financial covenants that we have to stay within certain measures per coding. Their covenant says that we cannot have less than 0.3. So we basically can't finance more than 70% of our total assets. So if you think of that in relation to like buying a home, usually the bank will only lend you up to 80% of the value of the home. They'll only lend us up to 70% of the value of our co-op. Our ratio is 0.53. That means the membership owns 53% of our total assets, free and clear. Any questions on that one? This is one that we present to you guys every month as well.
Can I ask a question there or bring up a point? This equity level includes our tri-state equity, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a modified one that takes that out, and then there's a regular one that includes it. So a portion of that is tri-state equity, which is important just to keep in mind.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Okay. The next one is a debt service coverage ratio. I know we talked earlier today about tri-states, what their covenant is. So hopefully you all are fairly familiar with what this is. You basically take an adjusted net income and looking at that, you compare that to what your current your obligation is for the next 12 months on your long-term debt and principal and interest that is owed. CoBank requires us to have, it's written a little bit funny, so I would say that ours is 1.5, so we need to be able to cover our principal and interest by 1.25 times after taking into account all of our operating costs and some other adjustments in there. So looking back at our 12-month trailing debt service, we're at 1.98, so we look really good. This number can change very quickly if it's not being closely looked at. Again, it's over 12 months now, so if you do have some months that are really bad and you dipped below that covenant, that you need to be looking closely, but also knowing that then you may have months where you get well above it. The average over that 12 months needs to remain above 1.25. The last one, operating tier, this is a measure of the ability to cover your interest expense on long-term debt. This one we're well above, anything that would appear to be risky at 4.5. That means we can cover our annual interest expense 4.5 times over with our current margins. So that all makes sense.
Thank you so much. I enjoy, we take the classes, we sit around the board, it sort of becomes, we don't pay, I think we lose track of what these ratios really mean. So having a reminder, and I know Kristen asked when we refinanced with CoBank and we actually looked at the documents, she's like, where are we in relation to these ratios? Yeah, we got them every month. We just didn't really dig into them the way you've presented them. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think the CFC training with Eric, he's going to be getting really in depth with a lot of this stuff. I thought it might be a nice little introduction or just reminder that this is why these things matter. They really are, could be simple ways as long as you understand what the ratio is telling you, is like I can throw a ratio at you all day long, but if you don't understand where the healthy ratio is, then it's kind of meaningless, right? So I know Eric will get a lot more in depth with this. We also receive a KRTA report from CFC, which is not out yet for 2022. But I love that report. It gives a ton of ratios, like way more than you would ever want to see probably. I think Eric will help us identify which ones we should really be looking at. But the other neat thing about that report is it compares you to other co-ops in the state and nationally. So we can kind of see, where we stand. It's kind of a neat way to look at things, so.
Yeah, and I know that Eric is going to go over that when we do the financial training to help you guys pick the ratios in that KRTA that are most important to you, that are the most significant indicators of financial health for the organization. And so I echo, what Emily said, if you guys understand what they mean and understand what those bounds should be, then it's a very quick and easy way for the board to look and see the financial health of the organization and make sure that and help us make sure that we're tracking the right way. So I look forward to that training, and I appreciate Emily giving us kind of like a little taste of what's to come. And I think that, previously I did look at the past KRTAs. Even when I was applying for the job, I asked for that. And I kind of looked at the highlights that were given to the organization last year. And some of the ratios that you guys were looking at were interesting, but maybe they weren't the key indicators of financial health. So I think if we refocus on which ones you guys need to be looking at as a board and that we need to be tracking as a staff, I think that'll help us just do a better job of, our fiduciary responsibility.
Don't we have an indenture with CoBank and CFC that requires certain ratios?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that's
exactly.
Yes. Financial covenants, there's only two that they really measure, and that one is the equity to total assets and the debt service coverage.
Right.
The rest of it is, essentially board policy.
Yeah, you guys can set policies around.
Yeah, but we gotta meet the indenture.
100%. And so I think those are the ones we need to be paying the most attention to. And then also there are certain ratios that we can watch that are indicators of what's going to happen to those ones that are within our debt service or that are within our indenture. And so if we're keeping an eye on the other ratios that are indicators of how those are going to trend up or down over time, it again helps us make good decisions as a board and as a management team.
And yeah, and you can see the liquidity tightening under graphs. And at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, this is amazing. You know, you see that tightening and then you see the long-term debt to plan go in the other direction.
Right.
So it makes you
Shows you
think
that
as a
in a relationship.
like what that relationship
Yes.
is and where we ought to be heading.
Exactly.
Given what we think that economic conditions are going to be in the future.
Yesterday, I sent out the request for proposal for the cost of service study. I sent it to 4 organizations. And we also, Rob posted it on the website yesterday. Thank you, Rob. The due date for this proposal or for the response will be May 26th. And we hope to award them on June 8th. We're hoping, it might be too tight of a deadline, but we are hoping to have the reports completed and finalized by August 4th with a board presentation at the August 10th meeting. That may or may not be realistic. We'll see what the respondents come back with. But just to give you an idea, that's out there. And then the last thing I wanted to let you guys know is we do have the income payment solution is ready to go live. Amanda and her team are actually testing it right now out in the field. They went at 10, so I was hoping I might hear back from them how it went before the board meeting was over. So they're just testing it at, let's see, Family Dollar, 7-Eleven, Dollar General, and Come and Go are the 4 vendors that we were able to use. On May 15th, members will be able to pay it at those vendors using their Smart Hub. And then it will print on the first paper bill, August 10th. Any questions on income?
It'll be announced on August 10th, basically, on the.
It'll
or
be,
what's the-
the barcode that they
We
can
can scan.
use, will be on their bill print on August 10th. The reason there's such a delay between it being ready now to use and when it's gonna show up on the bill print is because we have other changes happening to the bill. I think in the end of June or July, and every time we make changes to the bill, we have to pay programming. So it made sense to just do it all at once.
We'll make sure we get messaging out to our members, letting them know that this is now a viable payment option and how it works. We can get sent in CCL over the next few
So
months.
do we pay Come and Go then to collect the bills, or how does that?
We don't, so the member pays $1.50 convenience.
Oh, convenience fee.
So they're really.
So they pay and Come and Go gets a piece of that, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe.
Incom pays it
Incom,
according to where it's
Yeah.
used.
All right.
And that's actually less than our $2 convenience fee that we charge for people to use credit cards online.
So will that compound if they use the credit card at Come and Go?
No picks up those credit cards, or, that's part of their.
Cost.
That doesn't make sense because they're going to lose money on it.
But maybe they sell some,
Sell some.
sell something else.
Yeah,
Yeah, and pay it and buy a
Red Bull.
pop.
yeah, there you go.
And it doesn't cost Come and Go $2, right?
Yeah, they probably get a better deal, yeah.
Right. Any other questions on that?
No, it's something, I mean, in our surveys that Rob sends out a lot, constantly 4 or 5 people, so that'd be a good way of, like, want to use your credit card. You have some options now where you're not gonna have.
Yeah.
You're still getting $1.50 convenience fee, but not.
But you don't have to use IVR. And, you can go see a person.
And they don't have to pay with a card, do they? They can pay with cash at these locations as well. It's a cash option, which we'd heard we needed more cash options available in.
Cash or credit card, not a check or anything.
I doubt it unless they take a check at those vendors, which I don't know if they do.
And 24/7 at Come and Go, so.
Right. Exactly, just making it more convenient.
So that brings us up to 6 different ways for members to pay bills. We have IVR, Smart Hub, Fiserv, which is the bank bill pay, mail-in, in-person, and income now. So I think that's pretty good amount of options, hopefully.
One of the options that we actually discussed with our employee group recently was paying in person to a field staff. So if we've got a lineman out who's disconnecting somebody and they say, I've got my money right now, can I pay? A lot of co-ops used to accept that. This co-op did used to accept it. It's very rare, but did. And we've made it clear that they cannot do that. It's just an unsafe practice. There's not a lot of checks and balances, and it's unsafe for them to be carrying the cash or accepting the cash. So we've made it clear to all of them that they can't do that. They cannot accept cash in the field. We have all these other options. Please use and encourage our members to use one of these options. But I do understand from them that it was a very rare occurrence that it didn't happen. So
Yeah, this is gonna be well received from the line group. It's an option for people to pay, at 10 o'clock at night.
24/7
With
with cash.
Their bill, and our guys get kind of in a rock and a hard place sometimes, like, did they pay their bill? Can I go turn their power back on? So this is gonna be a nice, I think, improvement. Help the guys in the field too, so I'm excited to see how it works.
Can we see like maybe next month, like the breakout of how many people use each different option? I mean, I don't know how
Do
easy
you
or
want to
hard.
wait until we have some income data, or would you rather see?
Well, just curious, like, do most people mail it in? Do they bank bill pay or?
Quite a
the
few
other
people
thing that's
still
good about
bring it in.
Do they?
Quite a few people bring it in, because you report the amount received by the Walden office.
Oh,
So it's already.
Yeah,
I think that is.
somewhere we do have a report of what came in where.
Oh, do we?
Payment
Okay.
type, but it's,
Maybe in Rob's report, do you have that?
Yeah,
Or somebody else?
it's in the office services board report within the finance report.
we're right,
Do you
in one of
have-
the black ones, I think.
It doesn't tell you how many people are paying.
It says dollar amount.
Oh, it's just dollar amount.
Okay.
This could be your 3 biggest customers.
Yeah.
So I've gotten feedback that people aren't happy with paying the $2 service charge. So now at Come and Go, they'll get a 50 cents off.
Yes.
Maybe $1.50, but there still might be some complaints. A stamp now.
It's a huge reduction.
It's a huge
Cents.
reduction on a
25%
percentage
reduction.
point.
Yeah, you get a 25, we
I
just bill it as
pay
a
my bill by
25%
logging
reduction.
into my bank account, paying all my bills
All right.
that way. So
Any other questions for Emily? Anything else, Emily?
No, the last thing I wanted to say about income that I think is great, I know that there may be some questions about why we're not using some of the other options. Income integrates directly with NISC. This is one of our only options that does this. So when someone pays at Come and Go, it'll automatically show that their bill has been paid. So this will be really useful for people who are on disconnects. That notification will be immediate. Whereas with the other options that we explored, it would not be. It would really take us going and uploading a file, and so that payment would be a lapse in that information coming in, so.
Like, how many shut-offs a month do we have? Like, a lot? Got in there too.
Notes.
depends on the time of year, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, is it pretty high or?
Not many.
No, are you saying we have 5 disconnects in the month of
Oh, that's
March?
not
And I would say that's, or actually that was
Electricity, man.
April.
Yeah.
That's probably.
So it's not a huge number. Okay.
But those
Then
are
the
big
ski
deal.
area shuts.
They're a big deal to them.
Then it'll go up, yes. But do they have to go through a lot before they get their power shut off, right? Is it?
Yeah, there's a lot of phone calls. I think it's 75 days.
Oh, okay, so it takes a lot.
75 days, not of just being past due on your current bill, 75 days after.
We have a policy or it's in the tariff or something, all those.
All those, all
All those things you read through.
right.
Did we get the issue at Walden settled about not using Family Dollar up there? or-
We are using Family Dollar up there, Carl.
We are?
It gives people one more option. And it, yeah,
I thought we extended or kept the hours in the office the same, or that we're using them both.
we're using them both.
Okay.
City Market and Safeway.
They were not options. They do have an option to pay utility bills there, but that is another, that's a vendor who does not use income. So it does not integrate directly with NISC to where we get, up to date payment information. We would have to do an upload of a file from what I understand, so.
It'll be interesting to see how those vendors change or those places change over, 10 years from now, who's going to be doing the income?
Right.
As we think about our community. More or less.
So the store employee is just scanning the barcode, just like for a candy bar, or
Exactly.
any merchant.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Joe.
So just a couple things. The CREA conference that I attended 2 weeks ago now, attendance continues to improve. So for many years, it wasn't an IT group meeting. They had a group and then it paused for like 7 or 8 years. And this is, I think, the third year they've been meeting again. And so 2/3, I think 15-ish co-ops were actually in attendance or represented this year, which was, I think, 1 or 2 more than last year. So attendance continues to improve. The discussion this year centered a lot around NRECA's RC3 tool. I don't know if any of you or many of you are familiar with that, but it is the cooperative cybersecurity capabilities tool that was developed by NRECA, called the RC3 tool. It was developed with money provided or grants provided by the Department of Energy. Those grants have expired or funding is no longer available. I was sad to learn that new funding has not been found. And so the tool is rapidly becoming outdated. As technology changes, the tool is not following those new technologies and trends. So for right now, the ongoing future of RC3 is very, very unknown. The tool, like I said, the tool right now is already getting really outdated. So, and I think in some fashion to try to come up with a replacement, CREA is proposing their tool. It is in the very, very early stages they're calling it RECAP for the cybersecurity.
Reset.
It's like reset for
Exactly,
cyber.
RECAP. There was discussion about potentially trying to either incorporate it or ride along with RESAP. That met with mixed reviews. I guess there are some questions now on RESAP. What have been proposed to see how you're safeguarding your data, as well as some other things that are being proposed. And CREA's board, I believe in April, took action to formally recognize RECAP as actually a tool that they are going to begin promoting. So we'll see where that leads. Right now, it's a self-assessment tool. They answer 25 questions and we participate in the tabletop exercise. We will do it. I'm not sure what benefit it will bring at this point, but to support the tool and a tool for the future growth of that tool, I think it's worthwhile. So that's all about that. The other thing that I'm very proud to announce is that we do have 3 substations communicating on fiber. As of last night at 5 p.m., we brought the last one up. So it was a long time coming. Adam is a big part of it. His staff, Mitch and I, and my network administrator, Adam Walker, all of us have 8 hours at that time. But yes, we have turned off the microwave links to those substations, and they are completely 100% as of last night at 5 o'clock.
Thanks.
That's all. Any questions?
You're gonna keep the microwave as backup for, obviously foreseeable future.
Probably. Some of those devices are very old. couple of cases, vendor support or manufacturer support is not really available anymore. So probably as long as they work, yes, but, I don't know, beyond that, I don't know.
The RC3 thing, is that what was, they were talking about last year, the grants, the Cynthia Sue?
Yeah, Cynthia
that
Sue, Dr. Sue.
Dr. Sue was working on, and then that's all kind of
She's
gone
no
away.
longer there. She's even gone from NRECA. The person that took her job is a guy named Ryan Newland. And he's actually been at NRECA for about 18 months now, I think. But I don't know some of the internal workings, but I don't think the funding just dried up.
They just had a big thing, I just read it at NRECA, I think, talking about, to Congress about cybersecurity or.
They seem to be taking a little bit of a different direction, and I don't know if that's Ryan's direction or if that's where that actually is coming. But, yeah, RC3 it's still available and you can still use it. And one of the things that I liked about it was that it was kind of unique in that we'd answer these questions and then it would basically not say bad, good. It would kind of gauge you on a maturity level as to how secure they thought you were toward, their ideal parameter, which it didn't always apply. And there were some things on every co-op where you'd be NA, just don't have gas, we don't have some service that it was measuring. But it was a bit of a unique approach, and I felt like it still needed some more maturity itself, but it wasn't a really useful tool. We went in to do our self-assessment or to update our self-assessment last fall, and I noticed that nothing had changed from 2022. And so there were very, very minor updates done for this current version. Really just some wording was changed, was about all. So yeah, I don't know where that's going to wind up. I hope that they somehow get resuscitated, that program, but.
One other question, how's the board doing on their know before and their phishing exploits and?
Generally, the fishing is not going so well. We are catching a lot of fish, I guess, is the best way to say that. The last test we ran, we had 18 people.
I meant mostly the board, if it
Yeah.
comes to the employees.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
the employees are
18
your
total,
gig.
Right, 18 total.
9 of them were board
We
members.
did catch a few.
27 on the board.
Make it 17.
I've been talking to people, like I turned over a lot of this, the administration of this to one of my employees. I've been talking more about him, about how we can communicate more effectively. But without reducing the effectiveness of the training. I mean, the whole notion, I can't say this is a good thing. I mean, that defeats the purpose, right? So we're trying to come up with a way where at least the trainings, the stuff that you're just going to simply listen to a video or something like that, we try to code those in yellow or something like that. I don't know, but there's talk about that. But yes, we continue to catch people, and they are getting particularly sneaky in that they are sending out phishing emails claiming it's training.
Well, yeah, I got one of those. And then, but I also noted that when I looked at Know Before, that I actually had clicked on a phishing email. I asked Jill, but it was back in March, but it was the first one I'd ever clicked on. And so then I get this thing saying, you got to take training.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, is this for real? This is all a game. I'm not going to click.
No, the one on the dress code, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Dress code, really, and Granby?
Some of them are pretty easy.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Damn, folks luncheon?
We do, and Know Before also does.
But can we get a report that we share with the board that says, this is the number of board failures?
Yeah.
Is that what you want to know? So we
Yeah,
know
that's
how
kind of
we're
what
doing?
I'm absolutely.
Yeah. It's 100% of our failures, then we've got a lot of work. to do. We'll see.
Yeah, get rid of the
Yeah,
iPads
get rid of
and email. One of 32. I clicked on one. I don't know which one it was. I'm
The only
pretty sure
one
it
that
had
got
to
me
do with
ever was
distributed
the dog.
generation.
The dog at the shop.
Oh,
The puppy, the lost puppy.
It absolutely was distributed.
Click on that.
DER, something else. So
They're like, this will get her.
They're really getting kind of, they're
Very tailored.
They know where it's
yeah,
up.
knowledgeable of the industry and stuff. It's kind of crazy. And they do, I believe the cooperative space as a whole, like when we first got it, I think we were one of 3 co-ops that was using it before. And now, I think there are well, I know that we are one of the, as a group, we are one of their, about their second largest customer.
I know going to the CREA meetings, talking about this in a class, all the other directors in that classroom were like, oh yeah.
Well, we kind of struggle a little bit with how much is enough and how much is too much. Because I mean, you can kind of go overboard where people don't put anything on anything. So I don't know. I mean, that's a balance that's kind of tough to strike. But we continue to play with it.
They're kind of fun.
The inside man, people seem to like the inside man.
Yeah. All right, Angie.
Okay, so just some updates from when I sent the report out. Our member services rep has started. Her name is Megan Marsh. She started on Monday. The meter tech, we had his in-person interview yesterday. I have not followed up with Joe and Nathan yet to see what their opinion was, but hopefully we'll have a chance to do that either later today or on Monday. The staff engineer has completed all of her pre-employment stuff and is set to start on the 22nd of May. The journeyman lineman position in Walden, we have opened that position again, and Adam and I began interviews on that yesterday. And then with the safety coordinator position with Adam White leaving, I have set up a meeting with Adam Paulson, Leah, Kristen, and Tiffany to go over, because it seems like there's a lot of safety duties kind of spread all out. So I've set up a meeting with everybody to kind of see what they're doing, make sure that we don't miss anything. I have set a forklift certification training with Brian in our warehouse. He's certified to do that training for the lineman. So that will take place in May. And then in June, CREA will be here doing a safety training. And then July and August are kind of up in the air right now. And then September, working with Brian and Adam to do a safety rodeo. And hopefully it will involve all of the employees. Maybe we'll have a different thing for each employee to do. Hopefully that'll get some of the inside employees joined in that as well. I have reached out to a company that does in-house safety trainings, I guess, for utility co-ops. My old co-op has used them. I know Virginia's old co-op has used them. And I'm waiting to hear back and see if we can get them in for just some different kind of trainings that we can provide in-house and that CREA can help us with. So, employee recognition or retention, sorry, the housing. So I will look at that house, that rental house, tomorrow afternoon at noon. I did forward their lease agreement to Levi to look at.
So do we know we have employees that need to rent?
Yes.
Yeah.
To start with, and we haven't even put it out to all of the employees, but our manager of member relations person will be looking for a place when he first gets here.
So it's more like a short-term thing for new
That's
employees?
the idea.
Yeah, kind of like a transition, like come in and then, whether it's 6 months or a year.
Well, they find a house.
Maybe we should buy
I'm
it.
in rather than wean them off.
We're working on those solutions. There's going to be, I mean, we've talked about it. There'll have to be a wide variety of solutions for the
Yeah.
housing issue.
I don't know if you know, Mountain Parks currently owns a house that we rent
Oh,
out
okay.
to employees, so we do have one that we own. We have one of our, inside employees that has been in that for a year or two, I think. So, we do have one that we own. This one we're looking at renting. And then Virginia and I had a conversation with this, company, A2 Developers. We had a phone conference.
They're the ones that bought that big hotel.
Yeah, in Winter Park. I don't know that it's a real good fit. They're basically changing they're keeping the footprints of the rooms the same. They're not knocking down walls, they're not making bigger rooms, so it's basically a hotel room that they're gonna put a little kitchenette type thing.
It's across from the ski area, it's the old
Winter Park.
Premier Winter Park Mountain
It's
Lodge.
going to be kind of like the old Silver Creek.
They're the.
Hotel rooms.
Yeah, it's like the four rooms at Silver
Smaller.
Creek.
Yeah.
They're small.
Small.
But we had the good meeting with them and we'll send out a survey to the employees and see if it's something that anybody's interested in at the price point that they gave us. If there's interest, then we'll pursue it. We don't anticipate significant interest just because of the size of the units and the
Is it
price.
location? Do we have many employees that live in Winter Park?
I don't think that the barrier will be location. I think the barrier will be the size of the units compared to the price of the units. But we'll find out. We'll see what the results are.
Size-wise, I mean, it would be fine for one person, maybe two. I don't see it working real well for a family, or anybody with children type thing, but it's an option.
Are you gonna take that, whatever you decide, are you gonna take that off that fund from the Winter Park sale?
The Winter Park sale money has to be put back into infrastructure that we own. Am I correct? It can't just go to.
Back into what?
We have to own something. There has to be an asset associated with it. So no, I would not plan on putting any rental property into that. It would have to be something that we purchase, build, to be infrastructure.
Are we still working on a plan for that money then?
Look at the next bullet point is a housing committee.
Yes, and we did get a housing committee set up. We have, I believe, 8 or 9 people that are on that housing committee. And to your point, Carl, as far as like the rental places that we have, whichever employee is in that rental property, they pay the rent on that. That's not coming out of Mountain Park's money at all. So they're paying whatever rent the landlord or, the property in Winter Park, whatever that rent is set at, that employee is paying for that.
So the new,
We do have the rental assistance.
We do, and that goes directly to the employee. It's up to $1,000 a month for the first 12 months. That doesn't help. I think the way it's written, if I remember right, current employees can do that if they have a hardship, I think, if I remember right. But it's typically new employees that are taking advantage of that. But yes, we do have that.
Is anybody on the housing committee that was previously on there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I think.
I was on that. I know that, and I brought this up in strategic plan. It's a really hard issue. I think we all know that. It's really, really hard. And I know that there was some frustration and that the committee worked really hard and brought things to the board, and the board was not supportive. So we have to be cognizant and come up with building a program that we all think will work and is within the financial capability of Mountain Parks. So I'm excited you guys have that committee going again, and hopefully we'll be creative and have some solutions for a problem that can't really be solved.
It's definitely not a one size fits all. We did have that question brought up at the all employee meeting. We had an employee housing committee, what's going to make it what's any different. Yep, yeah, and that's what these are.
There was frustration around that.
Yes,
We got a good idea to it, so at least
Yep.
somebody
we
can
do.
start with a few of those or throw them out the door and start first.
I mean, is there a management person on that? Okay. Because I mean, they, you know, if I was an employee, I'd say like, hey, buy everybody a house, right? I mean, that would be my suggestion. So it has to be like reasonable, right? I mean.
Yes. So I'm on it, Paulson is on it, Emily has volunteered to be on it, so I think we got too far down that road, we bring Emily in. I think some of the things that I, want to suggest to the committee is, you know, different solutions. Maybe the people that have been here longer that own their homes, they're gonna obviously, something is gonna work better for them than work for the people that we are trying to recruit and get in the door. I think it's gonna be not just a one thing, it's gonna be different options for different people, and maybe, you know, we come up with 5 different options and you choose whichever option works best for you. I don't know, but I'm trying not to focus just on one solution. I don't think that will work.
So just for instance, I recall the committee will be looking at like, I think somebody mentioned that one of the shops needs a new roof. Why don't we put employee housing up there? And
That is something, that's something that was considered. I personally think that's a really bad idea.
It's on site.
It's on site.
Yeah.
It presents significant liability issues for the organization. I've also talked to a couple of other co-ops who have done that actually. And they reported that that it's not popular. Employees don't want to live at work.
Yeah.
Turns out, as much as we love this place, we do like going to.
I'll put a little plug in because Habitat is in Hot Sulphur is going to be starting another home. We're just finishing up one now, and that's a longer term process, but maybe it's something that the committee should, you know, continue to track. Because everybody says, oh, no, Mountain Parks employees, they wouldn't qualify. Well, I kind of think they would. I don't know much about the financial qualification, but that's what Habitat targets is firemen, school teachers.
You have visitors in the lobby. Just speak to the lobby.
So maybe they can just have a line item for Habitat, you know, to track that.
And that's definitely something that will be on my list. Again, I don't know if they will qualify, but it's always good to have a little skin in the game, so.
Yeah, because I know, I'm thinking it's Holy Cross, and I think it was the school teachers that they built a big project in the Salt.
Yes, that was Holy Cross, and they did do it with the school teachers.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, you know, it became this wonderful project of, I don't know, 10 or 12 units that looked great. And so all of a sudden it just mushroomed with the collaboration. So Habitat does struggle with getting people qualified.
Especially in communities like this, where the people struggling for housing aren't necessarily your typical income range for people who struggle in other areas.
Yes, yes.
But I can just say that the committee is going to be working on it. We don't have solutions yet. We are looking at there's nothing that's really off the table at this point.
Because they do, Habitat does have a fair amount of land in Hot Sulphur.
Ray, I would just add, we had architects look at that roof over there, and they said it's not a good idea to build housing.
Oh, okay.
Now, that's been talked about a long time. We finally kind of figured out it's probably not possible to build on top of it.
Yeah. And that people don't want to live where they work. That makes the most sense.
Fire pole going down to work in the morning.
Because who was telling me this shop over here, they put employee house?
That's what they were talking about, is that,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about this, but we don't.
No, I mean, the shop, that new one they built right there.
Okay, over by the concrete plant.
Yeah, right by the time they put employee housing.
Construction.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for
Kept the
Angie? Yeah, we would have the El Monte.
They knew that, what that was.
That was pretty scary.
El Monte.
I live where I live.
When does it mean that?
Bothers you every day, doesn't it?
Hold on. Go ahead, Angie.
When Tiffany and I went to the CREA HR conference, this is something that all of the other co-ops that were there were 12 co-ops represented there. And it is something that they are all facing. It is not just us. It is not just us in the resort communities. It's across the
actually neighbor.
So. And they didn't have any good answers either.
Other questions for Angie on her report?
Excited to hear new ideas.
You're welcome to join anytime. I can send the board the invite when we're having a meeting. And if you guys would like to participate, then you'll have that information. And then each time we have a meeting, I'll definitely include it in my board report and just kind of provide updates as far as where we're headed, what we're thinking, maybe some ideas, questions, that kind of thing.
I'm not, to finish my plug, I'm not on the board at Habitat, but I bet you could get their executive director to come for a 20-minute education thing on what it takes to qualify, or, just so Mountain Parks has that awareness.
Or one pager.
Other items?
Yeah.
Ray, do you know what the number is to qualify?
We can.
Yeah, it's all like a credit rating and, percent of income.
Have that ratio.
Yeah, what percent of your income, that's the maximum mortgage. But no, I know enough to be dangerous.
Those things where we can have Angie reach out directly to Habitat and work and see if there's any potential of us qualifying if we don't.
And Justin mentioned a one pager, and I bet they've got like a summary that they give prospective homeowners on, here's the rules, because it has to be a certain credit rating and this and that.
Let the professionals get down into those
It is
details, but it's a good idea.
So I know.
Yeah. Right.
There's national policies.
We all set? Rob, are you up next? Angie, are you done? Rob?
Absolutely. Okay, she is finished. Well, good morning. One correction to my written report in the Colorado Country Life section that reflects May's content. June's content is actually, Angie in her column talks about our online survey, invites our members to participate and kind of what she's seeing in the survey. We announced the scholarship winners in the June CCL, and we also reprinted the linking situation in Walden for those that may not have seen the newspaper article or our website. So those things are coming up in June, Colorado CCL. Today I wanted to focus on the annual meeting. And I see, I have to acknowledge, I've never seen such a new board member have such an enthusiasm for an annual meeting that he already has his name tag on 2 days before the meeting. So Mike, well done.
Well, actually, this is just my visitor.
Oh, never mind. Okay. I'm getting all excited that I got the right board member here. I saw the green and okay, so never mind. Okay, so if let's go through your binder. This is the entire annual meeting in a binder. So in case you're Mike, and this is your first, maybe your first one. On the first page, we have the full agenda. So this is the agenda for the meeting. And then the next section, we have the annual report. Okay, this is also included in registration bags. And Levi will ask if anyone has a floor motion to dispense with reading of the minutes. And we expect that you full well will get one. Levi, have you ever read the minutes? I don't remember you ever. Okay. So that's probably going to happen. I put the bylaws and the articles of incorporation in here just in case something came up and you needed to reference those.
Rob, real quick, just because I don't ever want to read the minutes. Remember, you're all members and you can make a motion if nobody else does as directors.
To dispense with reading the minutes.
To adopt them, yes.
But none of them want to listen to me read the minutes, so I always give them.
The next tab is the Election Supervisory Committee, in case you're wondering who's on there. We have a last minute change because last night, so we're using another alternate. So tomorrow at 1 o'clock, our committee of Bill Tomasek, Bob Slint, and
John Winninger, is meeting here in the community room to go over the questionable ballots. I got a report from our mail vendor this morning. We had 632 ballots received by mail and 16 questionable that they will go over tomorrow. With the assistance of Levi, Virginia will be there as well. Also in this section, I have a sample floor ballot. Do not try to cast this ballot. It's a sample and it's not an official one, so it won't work. So don't even try it. Okay? So there you go. Next, we have Emily's financial report. So she has 2 slides she's going to share. These are all animated. And I'm sure very engaging when she speaks to the membership about our financials. And this is a good financial report that is going to be. So, and I have the audience polling questions throughout the annual meeting like last year. To keep the audience engaged, we have 3 sets of 3 questions that people can participate in the audience polling using their smartphones. And we will let all who participate, we'll draw one name of those participants. And that again is just to engage more and more people that we're communicating ways. So that's the plan with the polling questions. We have 2 roundtable panels. That's the next tab. So we have the industry roundtable that will be moderated by Kent Singer, CRA. And Virginia is so lucky she gets to be part of both panels. In one, she's a panelist, and in the second community roundtable, she is the moderator. And so one of the panelists in the community this year that's a little unique is we have the Westland School District Transportation Director who drive the electric bus up, and she will be on that panel as well. Grand County Search and Rescue. And then, let me see here, we have scholarship winners. We'll be recognizing those. Liz, are you all ready with the pronunciations?
I need to do a little more practice, Robert.
We put the phonetics on
Right, you
Liz's copy.
sent
so
a
she can-
nice, yeah. Something,
So-
perfect.
Zeleznikar, I think might be the,
toughest one.
yeah, he's might be the hardest one to pronounce. And then Levi will get up at the end of the meeting, announce the director election results, and then we go into the drawing process. And so that is kind of a.
Real quick, so on those director election results, we will, if there is not a winner, we'll have a runoff procedure, which will require a motion at that time by one of you, which Liz and I will coordinate on who is going to make that motion. And I will have the language for that motion to account for the runoff to be held in August.
So that's very important. Don't let me forget that if I'm up there.
Okay.
You'll be the one that's saying we have less than a majority. If we have less than a majority, then we'll need the special election.
But if it doesn't get done, you're right, it is your fault.
It's my fault. So if anyone's confused about that, those special election procedures were in the April board meeting packet.
Yes, and so you know, all the District 1 candidates have been informed of this. So they all know about the potential for a runoff election.
And the process.
And the procedure,
followed, yeah.
correct, yes.
And 632, how's that compared to our?
The last time we had District 1, I want to say, I don't have the exact number, but it was like almost 500. So this is a little higher. There were 3,000 eligible voters in District 1, I think 3,100. And so we had 630 return mail ballots. We'll see how many floor ballots we get, but it's a little higher than last time. Probably some more members too in that district since last time.
I think last year for my election for District 2, which is about the same size as District 1, it was just under 600.
518. That number.
Just under 600.
517 by mail, 1 by floor.
1 by floor.
Plus or minus?
Just under 600.
Mr. Blake, yeah.
It was like 18% turnout. I think it was.
So any questions at all on the annual meeting format? Yes, Mark.
Yeah, and with 2 new board members, kind of awkward. As board members, we register, like everybody else is, making sure we have, currently we won't say we have a quorum, so we register that. That goes in for prizes. And I know at my first meeting, I won a prize and it was just awkward. Cal won something. I go, all right, I won. And Carl goes, you don't do that. I don't know, we can't remember what, so maybe some clarification there. Should we register? And then if a board member does win a prize, it threw me in a hell of an awkward spot my very first year.
Yes, on the register. Regarding if board members should be involved in that drawing, I don't know that if that's our decision to make. I think you should have that discussion.
It depends on how good a prize it is.
I thought it was a really good quote. It broke my heart to give it back.
If you don't want the prize, simply don't say you have that ticket.
True.
And they'll give it
Is there
to
any
someone else, right?
unset rule or what?
I don't think we have.
Avoid awkward situations.
What do you,
It's
Carl?
been since I've been on this board, just a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
That the board of directors gets, reimbursed for their expenses and whatnot. Let the door prizes go to the members.
Right, as well as the
So
plans.
nobody would accept one, but that's just
Yeah.
There's a few where you announce the person's name, though, right? Wasn't, I thought.
This time it'll be like last year. We're pulling ticket numbers, and I believe
Okay, so only ticket numbers.
ticket numbers. So you could, in theory, have the ticket be a winner and just keep silent.
And then they'll draw another.
Then you'll draw another,
ticket.
yeah, okay.
Is there a way for them to just simply not take the ticket? I don't know, because I haven't been to a meeting.
Let's see, I think.
If you register, can you just be like, no, thank you?
Yes, I would have to ask the registration desk. I think they could deny the ticket, but I'm not sure how exactly they're tracking.
Yeah, somebody else.
best thing is
Yeah,
to
give
do
your
what I
ticket
did
away.
last year is just to acknowledge that you got the ticket and say redraw, and then everybody stands up and cheers.
Right.
You're the hero.
You're gonna pull out your ticket.
Carl did that.
Last year wasn't working. I think a lot of people, members that won something gave it to, like the gift cards, they gave it to Mount Family.
Right.
They just don't, but yeah, ignoring the chicken.
We are, Virginia, and I talked about this, but she's come up with the idea, we're actually, the employees are not gonna be in the drawing this year at the meeting. They're in a separate bucket for prizes during an all-employee
We'll do something
meeting.
separate for them
So,
later so that they're not receiving prizes during the end.
I think that'll be a small crowd pleaser, plus it'll speed up the meeting.
About a third of the prizes were won by Mountain.
That's what I heard.
I heard that, so I don't like that practice. I think it's better for that to be separate. It's really an event for members, but the employees who choose to work, we will put their names in a drawing for something that we'll do on site for employees. That's separate.
Which probably means a third of the employees help to work for more.
Yeah, we want them to register. We want them to be there. We're glad that they're working.
Every other time.
Okay.
One thing on the agenda that will be a little different, Carl has told me he's not going to come, but under new business, we will be thanking and recognizing Jeff Hout and Kristen.
Jeff gonna make it?
Jeff is going to make it. He's going to come with his grandson. They're leaving at 5 tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's dedicated.
He would like to see everyone.
That's all I have for my report. If there are questions, I'm happy to.
Rob, I'm glad you're staying that you stayed on through this annual meeting.
I apologize for the time it looked like I wouldn't be able to.
We are really happy. You make this thing run.
Thank you.
Oh, appreciate that.
Rob,
Thank you.
I
But I have a
do,
lot of support.
I do want to say, I realize that this is your real last, you're on your, down the home stretch. You've got a final annual meeting.
Yes.
You've got a final election.
Yes.
After 19 of them, well, and it's been, we couldn't be more appreciative of your service to Mount Parks. You were the first real Mount Parks person that I met. You kind of showed me the ropes, put up with a lot. It taught me a lot, and I just want to thank you. So.
Here, here.
I think,
Thank you.
first time I thank Rob. The first time we met, I knew Rob, but he's been kind of the front line guy, other than lineman Floyd and Bill and Sam. Those were my contacts before I got on board. I never knew what the board did or anything. I was just a landowner down there. But I judged a hay contest up in North Park for 20-some years. That's the first time. So now everybody's kind of thinning out. It was a Thursday afternoon. So I go over looking, Mount Park's had a table, and I'd finished judging hay up there, and Rob's there, so we should just start bullshitting, you know, and then seeing what kind of swag they had. Well, this was, how long? This is probably 15 years ago, Rob.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's 10 or 12, but it's probably, but had fags. I go, I says, I was doing 4-H stuff then, and I needed a place for 4-H books and 22 ammo. And finally, when I quit doing that, I had some tools and stuff in it for my truck. And Mount Park Electric, then when I got on the board 5 years ago, kind of dusted the grease off it, run it through the washer machine. And now it's in my computer bag and everything else. But I appreciate when I first got to know you, Rob, and we talked up there quite a bit and got to be friends since. But I don't know if you know what day it is though, Rob. What's the date today? The 11th. So be it resolved. The Board of Directors of Mountain Parks Electric proclaim today, May 11th, 2023, and every May 11th thereafter is Rob Taylor Day in celebration and appreciation of your 19 years of service to Mountain Parks Electric. Again, we see you as the. There's some imposters in here, Rob. You know those guys, those gals. But
I didn't see this coming.
But Rob's been for 19 years, and he's been the front man. Other than the lineman, he's been the front guy. I've always known him at scholarship deals, at every deal at fair, mostly fairs. I'm judging hay, and Rob's always the guy at the fairs representing and getting swag.
20, 30 years at that fair. I was at 4 years with Basin at that fair. So I was a young man when I started that.
I know. Now that's like you go, who's that old for? But it's been 19 years, Rob, and we appreciate that. And through the years, you've been an excellent communicator, won several journalism awards, multiple communication awards. You just remind me of a high school social studies teacher, OP score guy, social studies teacher. You've been a consistent spokesman for Mountain Parks Electric. You're in the front line, and you ride for the brand. You ride for the brand. You administer elections every year. Nobody really ever wants to do that. It's a pain for thousands of Mountain Park members in the franchise. Serving hot dogs to thousands, if not millions of kids. If you had a nickel for every hot dog, you wouldn't be moving someplace. You would have been retired if you had a nickel for every hot dog you served. You've rolled in almost every single parade, from Kremling days to Hot Sulphur days to Grand Lake to everything. You're always in those parades. The scholarship stuff, that's where I first see on stage. My kids were getting scholarships. I think it was you and then Tom after that. Delivered flawlessly at annual meetings. You make those really run smooth. Like I said, I never was one until I was on the board of directors. Take up the slack.
We're just at first just rambling kind of thing. I didn't know this wasn't like a prepared deal.
I'm still just rambling. I'm supposed to be reading some, but I don't read very well.
Yeah, well, I'm from the Midwest, and anytime we're going to focus attention on me, I'm just going to sit here and squirm. It just keeps going, man. But I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
You can't stay up on the radar, and I'm not done yet.
Oh, we're not. You take up the
You keep slinking down, going, hold him up. You take up slack when others weren't around, and with a lot of employee changes stuff, you're there picking up that slack of more than just the membership guy. You keep the temperature and you keep the history. Now to me, that's really important. As we've gone through so many changes, you're kind of the historian of the outfit anymore, and I think that's really important. That's a high school social studies deal. Those that are ignorant of history, condemned to repeat it. Well, Rob I remember we tried that. And that was a wreck. And Rob remembers that stuff. You haven't written down, it's all up in your head. And you kind of remind us as board members why we're here. We're serving the membership of this co-op. So when we talk about co-op families, Rob, you are the co-op family, and then your family, putting up with Rob being gone. He works more than his 40 hours a week. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Not home for supper a lot of nights, and Saturdays, Sundays, and fifth quarters and everything else. But Mary Kate and his daughter Madeline are here today, and we thank you two for putting up with Rob and the service that he's given to Mountain Park. He's been part of this family, and hope we've been part of your family, and we sure appreciate that. But, Rob, we're grateful, and we wish you the best of luck up in North Dakota or South Dakota?
Well, right now it's looking like South Dakota.
South Dakota. But anyway, you have to go to basin reports, and now you're going there. We wish you the best of luck up there, and we're gonna miss you here, Rob.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I did not see this coming. But thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working here with all of you. And so thank you.
Just tell them what I told you.
Yeah. Well,
No.
second, and once the Zoom is off, but one thing I want to say that maybe Mark doesn't know is that as far as the family connection, to me, Rob has sort of epitomized the family feeling of co-ops. We always talk about co-ops being family, but there's a vice versa too. Maddie has interned at Mountain Parks. Almost every event I've attended, whether it's a parade or a fifth quarter, Mary Kate's been there helping. Just a true family effort. Thank you.
We don't know what to say. Thank you.
Gonna be hard to replace.
Yeah.
Well, not that hard. We already got somebody.
And here comes the parade.
We should be having lunch soon. Maddie and Mary Kate are going to join us for lunch. We could do it very quickly. I should have put the safety report ahead so we could break, but.
Well, I would say that our safety person is not here to deliver it, so unless you guys have any questions, we can, you saw the report in your board packet. If you have any questions, we can address it.
There's no change. This is perfect.
All right, should we break for lunch? Should we go into executive session now or when we get back?
Now would be easier for you.
For Joe? Okay, is there a motion to go into executive session for power supply and legal matters?
Second.
All in favor?